Chapter 469. Retreat. This golden crow has stepped into the level of a low-level Earth-rank demonic beast. We are no match for it. Glancing at the experts of Windy City, Lu Qingfeng's eyes were solemn at this moment. He seemed to know that he was no match for it. At the same time, just as Yin Chuaoyuo, Lu Qingfeng, and the others were retreating, the hall was in chaos. Everyone was running outside, afraid that they would fall behind and be killed by the golden crows in the sky. Swoosh! Fei Ren's figure flashed. Facing the ferocious golden crows in the sky, he did not dare to stay any longer and rushed out. For him, the martial king realm's inheritance and treasure were secondary. Saving his life was the most important thing. Roar! The sharp beast eyes glanced at the people on the ground below. The next moment, the golden crow in the sky also roared, then rushed out quickly. The aura of the demonic power around it surged as it launched an attack on the people on the ground. As the guardian spirit beast of the palace ruins, the golden crow naturally knew that the people who woke it up were all intruders. And for the intruders, the golden crow's thoughts were also very clear, and that was to kill them without mercy. Boom! Huge golden claws swept across the sky, exuding a frightening demonic aura. The next moment, they swept directly toward the martial artists on the ground below. At the same time, countless extremely cold golden claws swept up like a storm of sharp blades. In an instant, the golden claws swept across the whole place. A series of screams came out one after another. Then, dozens of martial artists were killed one after another. Blood splattered on the spot. They were torn apart by the golden crow's claws, and not even their bones were left behind. Boom! The aftershock of the huge attack spread out. The already crumbling golden hall finally couldn't withstand it and completely collapsed into ruins. The martial artists present were also affected, and countless of them were killed or injured in an instant. Outside the hall, a gray shadow cut through the air, then fell to the ground in a sorry state and rolled to the side in front of the ruins. Fei Ren spat out a mouthful of blood. The next moment, a trace of paleness appeared on his face. At the same time, the aura of the origin energy on his body fluctuated. The golden light disappeared, and the golden Buddha behind him gradually dissipated. It seemed that he was seriously injured. Damn it, a low-level Earth-rank magical beast is really powerful. Fei Ren took out a high-grade pellet from his spirit ring and swallowed it, slightly alleviating the injuries in his body. He could not help but feel a sense of lingering fear. The golden crow's claw attack not only had an astonishing destructive power, but also affected a wide range. Just a trace of the attack's residual power was enough to injure Fei Ren. If it weren't for the powerful defense of the Dharma Golden Buddha body, Fei Ren would have been torn apart by the golden crow, just like those warriors who had died tragically. However, even though he managed to keep his life, Fei Ren was still heavily injured. Above the sky, roar! After killing dozens of cultivators with one claw, the golden crow let out another long cry. Then, its body shot straight up into the sky. The pair of golden claws under its feet began to change, becoming even more dazzling. At the same time, it grew a third leg. Sensing the changes of the golden crow in the sky, Du Qing, who had retreated to the side of the ruins, was also shocked. It was as if he had seen something incredible. Just now, he actually noticed that the magical power in the golden crow's body had risen again. It seemed to have absorbed the blood essence of the dead warriors around it. This beast can evolve again by absorbing the blood essence of the dead warriors. A sense of horror surged in his heart. The next moment, Du Qing also clenched the gigantic sword in his hand. If this trend continued, everyone present was likely to be wiped out. In the end, they would become the golden crow's evolution nourishment. No one would survive. Damn it! This beast has evolved into a three-legged golden crow. If we continue to run like this, none of us will survive. Three-legged golden crow. This beast's strength has at least doubled. At the same time, Indra, Coke, Lu Qingfeng, and the others who were about to escape also noticed the transformation of the golden crow in the sky. They were shocked. Boom! Just as everyone was shocked, the golden crow in the sky had completed its evolution. The third leg that had just been born was shining with golden light. It was extremely sharp, as if it could tear the void with one claw. At the same time, it was emitting a terrifying magical power aura. Let's attack together. Kill this beast. Otherwise, all of you will die. Looking around, a hint of madness flashed across Indra's face. As the chief of the Polo tribe, a LV-1 martial spirit realm expert, even he wasn't confident that he could escape from the three-legged golden crow in front of him, not to mention the rest of the Polo tribe experts. Let's attack together. Kill. As the voice fell, everyone present also channeled their primary power. At the same time, they took out their natal spiritual treasures and joined the battle. Right now, whether it was to survive or for the treasures of the Martial King realm that had yet to appear, everyone had no choice. They could only join forces to fight against the three-legged golden crow. Otherwise, they would die. In front of the ruins of the main hall, primary power and magical power flew everywhere. It was extremely chaotic. From time to time, one or two warriors would be torn apart by the three-legged golden crow's sharp claws and die on the spot. On the other hand, the three-legged golden crow in the sky was still imposing. Although it was besieged by a group of warriors, its magical power aura didn't show any signs of decreasing. Little beast, I didn't expect you to have such a day. Just as everyone was fighting with the three-legged golden crow that had completed its evolution, a sinister sneer came from the distance. Then, it fell into Fei Ren's ears, as if it was a life reaper from hell. Whoosh! In the next moment, a gray-robed figure appeared out of thin air and landed not far away from Fei Ren. His face was full of hatred and cruelty. It's you. Seeing the person, Fei Ren narrowed his eyes. At the same time, primary power appeared around his body, and his expression suddenly became solemn. The gray-robed figure opposite him was none other than Taoist Dark Corpse, who had luckily escaped from his hands before. Little beast, you caused my many years of hard work to go down the drain. I lost several dried corpses and excellent quality in corpses. There's also the blood feud with that old guy from Wangjia. This debt has yet to be settled. Seeing that Fei Ren had recognized him, Taoist Dark Corpse smiled coldly. Then primary power surged around his body. At the same time, he took out a dried corpse wrapped in white cloth from the spirit ring on his finger. His eyes were full of killing intent. This dried corpse was the last stock in his hands. Its strength was comparable to a level 9 martial master. As for the other dried corpses and corpses, they were all destroyed by Fei Ren. In order to be able to take revenge, Taoist Dark Corpse had also prepared for a long time. He had been hiding in the dark and didn't dare to show himself. It was only when he saw that Fei Ren was severely injured by the three-legged golden crow's attack and his strength had greatly decreased that he chose to take action. Loser, do you think you can kill me? Looking again at Taoist Dark Corpse, who was full of killing intent, Fei Ren also raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered. Chapter 470. Although the other party was one of the elders of the Bone Sect, a 7th grade force, his cultivation was only at the 10th level of the Martial Master realm. If Fei Ren had not been affected by the remaining power of the three-legged Golden Crow's attack and suffered considerable injuries, he could have easily killed the Taoist corpse in his peak state. Ha! You're still so stubborn when you're about to die. In the face of Fei Ren's sarcasm, the Dark Corpse Taoist laughed instead of being angry. There was a trace of cruelty in his eyes. Little beast, I admit that I'm not your opponent, but how much strength can you exert now? From the beginning, he had been secretly looking for an opportunity to take revenge. Now that he saw that Fei Ren was seriously injured by the three-legged Golden Crow, he naturally wanted to be the first to jump out and seize the opportunity to kill the other party. Ghost Corpse technique. Kill. It seemed that he didn't intend to talk nonsense with Fei Ren. The Dark Corpse Taoist formed a seal with both hands, and in the next moment, he chanted and immediately controlled the mummy to attack the other party. The attack was fierce. As a martial artist who was proficient in refining corpses, The Dark Corpse Taoist strength was not outstanding. He was even weaker than some 9th-level Martial Master Realm experts. Most of his strength relied on the mummies and corpses refined by his subordinates. Therefore, even in the face of the injured Fei Run, the Dark Corpse Taoist was very cautious and did not personally make a move. Chila, a white shadow flashed by. The 9th-level Martial Master Realm mummy walked like the wind. Its eyes were empty and emotionless. In the next moment, it opened its mouth to bite Fei Ren's neck. It exposed a mouthful of sharp fangs, like a mammoth from ancient times. It was enough to see that if one was bitten by this mouthful of sharp fangs, even if one was lucky enough to survive, half of his neck would be broken. Bang! His eyes narrowed. In the face of the incoming mummy, Fei Ren also channeled his Yuan power. At the same time, his feet lightly stepped on the ground and retreated, barely avoiding the other party's bite. Woo-woo, the attack missed. The mummy's mouth also let out a low roar like a baby crying. It was very strange. A pair of empty eyes once again locked on Fei Ren. It was obvious that it would not stop until one of them died. Its aura was still fierce. After landing, Fei Ren's face turned slightly red, and a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Although this 9th-level Martial Master Realm mummy could not hurt him, due to the previous dodging, it also affected the wounds on his body. The injuries that had not yet healed were even more serious. Fei Ren's injuries were all caused by the 3-legged golden crow. The power of the 3-legged golden crow's claw was really amazing. The next moment, under the control of the Corpse Taoist, the 9th-level Martial Master Realm mummy launched another attack. On the other hand, Fei Ren only dodged and retreated. He did not face it head-on. Little bastard, you will definitely die today. Seeing Fei Ren retreating in defeat, the Yuanli aura on his body became more and more dispirited. At this moment, the cruelty on the Corpse Taoist's face became even more intense, as if he had already seen his opponent's death. Woo-woo! The surrounding demonic wind whistled. In the next moment, the mummy opened its bloody mouth and bit at Fei Ren's left arm. Boom! In a split second, just as the mummy's fangs were about to bite Fei Ren, a white light flashed in the air. The originally aggressive mummy was also forced back in an instant. In the end, it crashed to the ground. The white cloth on its body was torn apart, and the wounds were terrifying. It seemed to have suffered heavy injuries. Kala. Holding the sharp bone blade with both hands, the puppet Little White stood in front of Fei Ren like a loyal guard. At the same time, it emitted a deathly aura. That was close. I almost lost my life. Glancing at the puppet Little White standing upright in front of him, Fei Ren's face was solemn. At the same time, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, he had summoned the puppet Little White in time and blocked the mummy's attack to prevent his injuries from worsening. After devouring the dense death aura of the 3 death spirit crystals, the puppet Little White's strength had increased greatly. It was comparable to the 9th-level Martial Master Realm. It was more than enough to deal with the mummy in front of it. The sharp bone blade in its hand could even chop off the head of the mummy in front of it. Oomph! You finally took out your puppet. However, even if you have a puppet this time, it won't be able to protect you. Looking at the puppet Little White standing in front of Fei Ren, the Dark Corpse Taoist narrowed his eyes. The killing intent in his eyes did not decrease, but instead increased, as if he had already expected it. After all, in the previous battle, he had seen the power of the puppet Little White. Many of his low-level corpses had been killed by the puppet Little White's bone blade and turned into dust. Brothers, I'll have to trouble you this time. The seals in his hands changed again. The Dark Corpse Taoist actually kept the mummy in his hand. At the same time, he looked at the ruins not far away. His tone was meaningful and even revealed a trace of fear. Swish! Swish! Just as the Dark Corpse Taoist finished speaking, 2 figures, one white and one black, appeared out of thin air. Then they swept up a gust of wind and flew hundreds of feet in the air. They landed in front of the ruins, as if they had been waiting for a long time. There are more enemies. Seeing this scene, Fei Run, who was not far away, also felt a chill in his heart, and his face suddenly turned serious. Chapter 471. Of course, if it was only the Dark Corpse Taoist, he would not be afraid. However, two more enemies had appeared out of nowhere. With Fei Rin's current state, it was not possible for him to fight three alone. After the previous fierce battle, the Yuan power in his body was greatly consumed, and he was also injured. This is troublesome. Thinking of this, Fei Rin's eyes flickered. He clenched his fists under his sleeves and looked at the two figures, one white and one black, not far away. The Yuan power aura of the two figures in front of him was powerful and had already reached the half-step to martial spirit realm. Moreover, the two of them looked very similar, as if they were twin brothers. Each of them held a horsetail whisk, and an invisible, murderous aura spread out in all directions at the same time. They did not come with good intentions. Fei Ren's heart thumped. He was not a fool and could see that the two people in front of him were very aggressive. There was a high chance that they were the helpers that the Dark Corpse Taoist had invited. Their purpose was to completely eliminate him. Dark Corpse Taoist, you want us brothers to take action just to deal with this kid? At this time, the white-robed figure took a step forward and spoke. At the same time, he sized up the injured Fei Ren. When he saw that Fei Ren's Yuan power cultivation was only at level 6 martial master realm, a trace of contempt flashed across the white-robed figure's face, and his tone was cold. Brother White Tiger, although this kid's cultivation is only at level 6 martial master realm, his strength is not simple. At the same time, the Dark Corpse Taoist also noticed the trace of disdain and contempt in the white-robed figure's tone. At this time, his face turned green and red. He then gritted his teeth and said in a sinister tone, as an elder of the Bone Sect and a level 10 martial master realm expert, he naturally understood the meaning behind the other party's words. Obviously, in the eyes of the white-robed figure, as a dignified elder of the Bone Sect and a level 10 martial master realm expert, he could not deal with Fei Run, a level 6 martial master realm junior. It was really funny and even a little embarrassing. Oh, hearing this, the white-robed figure squinted his eyes. He was obviously surprised. After all, Fei Ren was only at LV6 martial master realm. As for himself, he was one of the elders of the Bone Sect, known as the White Tiger Taoist. His cultivation had reached the half-step martial spirit realm, and he was good at controlling beasts. He had a white tiger, a demon pet at the top of the spiritual rank. As for the black-robed figure beside him, he was his twin brother, known as the Spirit Snake Taoist. Just like Taoist White Tiger, Taoist Spirit Snake was also skilled in beast taming. At the same time, he also had a demonic beast pet, Spirit Snake. Its strength was only slightly weaker than Taoist White Tiger's subordinate, and it had barely reached the high spirit rank. Ha ha ha! Big brother, don't listen to this guy's words. However, Taoist Spirit Snake laughed out loud in the face of the Dark Corpse Taoist reminder. At the same time, a trace of ridicule was revealed in his eyes as he looked at the Dark Corpse Taoist. He said disapprovingly, Dark Corpse, you are still so stubborn. You can't even deal with a level 6 martial master junior. To think that you are one of the elders of our Bone Sect. This daddy can easily slap a level 6 martial master trash to death with a single slap. Taoist Spirit Snake's tone was extremely arrogant. Soon after, his gaze shot towards Fei Run, who was not far away, filled with contempt and disdain. In his opinion, a level 6 martial master junior like Fei Run was not worth mentioning. At this moment, Taoist Spirit Snake's ridicule caused the Dark Corpse Taoist's face to turn red. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. Clearly, he was quite angry. These two bastards. In a while, you will know how powerful this brat is. After a few breaths, the Dark Corpse Taoist's anger gradually calmed down as he tightly clenched his fists. Although he was ridiculed by the other party and was extremely angry in his heart, he was unable to deal with the puppet beside Fei Ren, Little White, by himself. Right now, he could only rely on the strength of the two brothers, Taoist white tiger and Taoist spirit snake. This brat has quite a few treasures on him. If the two of you can kill him, I won't take any of the treasures. I only want this brat's life. Thinking of this, a trace of cruelty once again surfaced on the dark corpse Taoist's face as he sneered. At the same time, his figure flashed and retreated to the back. Clearly, he did not plan to take action and left the battlefield to Taoist white tiger and Taoist spirit snake. In front of the ruins, Taoist white tiger, Taoist spirit snake? Could these two fellows also be from the Bone sect? At this moment, knowing the origins of the two people in front of him, Fei Rin's eyes also focused as he secretly thought in his heart. If I kill these elders of the Bone sect, I can borrow the remaining life essence on their corpses to make a breakthrough in my cultivation. Currently, the other party had not taken action and even looked down on him. This was a good thing for him. He could also take advantage of this breathing time to secretly recover his Yuan power and injuries. After an incense stick's worth of time, whether it was the dark corpse Taoist in front of him, Taoist white tiger, and Taoist spirit snake, they would all die. Treasure. In the face of the dark corpse Taoist's instigation, Taoist white tiger also turned his head. In the end, his gaze landed on the puppet in front of Fei Rin and suddenly stopped. A puppet of the 9th level martial master realm. His gaze was slightly surprised. In the next moment, a trace of greed and passion flashed across Taoist white tiger's face. As a half-step to martial spirit realm expert and one of the elders of the Bone sect, he had naturally seen a lot of the world. He could also see that the puppet in front of him was extraordinary. It was not an ordinary puppet from the outside world. Furthermore, its quality was excellent and it had strong growth potential. Big brother, I didn't expect this brat to have a puppet. Moreover, it seems to be of good quality. To the side, Taoist spirit snake was also surprised. Little brother, looks like the dark corpse Taoist did not lie to us. The brat opposite us seems to be a young junior from some sect. Otherwise, he would not have such a good quality puppet. Glancing at Taoist spirit snake from the corner of his eye, Taoist white tiger also sent a sound transmission, revealing his killing intent. Currently, Fei Rin was already seriously injured and only had a puppet of the 9th level martial master realm to protect him. It was not a big problem at all. Furthermore, in the eyes of Taoist white tiger and Taoist spirit snake, even if the other party was not injured, he was only a junior of the 6th level martial master realm. They could easily deal with him. Kill! With a low shout, Taoist master white tiger shot out in the next moment. He raised his hand and grabbed at the top of Fei Rin's head with origin power surging in his palm. The power of this claw was extraordinary. It was enough to kill any expert below the half-step martial spirit realm. In Taoist white tiger's opinion, Fei Rin was unable to block his claw. In the next moment, his head would explode and he would die. Spirit snake dance. Just as Taoist white tiger made his move, Taoist spirit snake, who was beside him, also circulated his origin energy. He flew out and slapped out streams of black origin energy in the air. His aura was like a rainbow, like a spirit snake dancing wildly. However, his target was not Fei Rin, but the puppet beside Fei Rin, Little White. In Taoist spirit snake's opinion, as long as he dealt with the 9th level martial master realm puppet Little White, the injured Fei Rin would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Furthermore, his thoughts were clear. Fei Rin was only at the 6th level martial master realm. He was not worthy of the two brothers joining hands. As long as Taoist white tiger alone was enough to deal with it. Chapter 472. Is it coming? Facing white tiger Taoist attack, Fei Rin's gaze was solemn. In the earlier exchange with Taoistine corpse, he had delayed for about half an incense stick's time. Right now, as long as he could delay for another half an incense stick's time, his injuries would be mostly healed. At that time, even if his Dantian's origin energy had not recovered to its peak, he would still be able to kill white tiger and Taoist spirit snake. Bang! In an instant, just as white tiger Taoist claw was about to hit Fei Rin's head, his figure flashed and turned into an afterimage as he retreated to the back. Boom! Mixed with origin energy, The claw heavily smashed onto the ground, leaving a deep pit. On the other hand, Fei Ren had already retreated to the back and did not suffer any injuries. Seeing that Fei Ren had easily dodged his attack, White Tiger Taoist was slightly surprised. A look of disbelief flashed across his eyes. After all, he was a half-step to martial spirit realm expert. With Lin Yun's mere 6th level martial master cultivation, it was impossible for him to dodge his claw. However, Fei Ren easily dodged it and seemed to be handling it with ease, causing him to be astonished. Bang! Rumble! At the same time, just as White Tiger Taoist and Fei Ren were exchanging blows, Puppet Little White was also fighting with Daoist Spirit Snake not far away. Although Daoist Spirit Snake had the advantage of a level, he was unable to do anything to Puppet Little White. He could only force Puppet Little White to retreat, but he was unable to completely eliminate Puppet Little White. Apart from that, Daoist Spirit Snake did not dare to be careless when facing Puppet Little White's counterattack. The pair of bone blades in Puppet Little White's hands were extremely sharp and were derived from its own body. Even a half-step to martial spirit realm expert like him would be heavily injured if he was struck or pierced by the bone blades. Damn it, this puppet is so weird. Just what is it? He blasted out a palm and forced Puppet Little White to retreat once again. In the next moment, Daoist Spirit Snake's figure landed to the side as he cursed. Crack, crack. However, Whitey paid no attention to Daoist Spirit Snake's curses, and it fearlessly pounced towards Daoist Spirit Snake. Its master was Fei Ren, and its body was imprinted with Fei Ren's blood essence imprint. As long as Fei Ren did not speak, the Puppet Little White would not stop fighting. On the other side, the White Tiger Taoist attacks came one after another. Although his previous attack had missed, he did not care. He only thought that it was because of Fei Ren's luck. White Tiger Claw. His 5 fingers closed together like a barb as an extremely powerful yuan power fluctuation spread out in all directions. In the next moment, Taoist Master White Tiger's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Fei Ren. At the same time, he swept out a claw. At such a close distance, he was confident that Fei Ren would not be able to dodge. Boom! However, Taoist Master White Tiger miscalculated once again. Fei Ren also punched out, and a large amount of golden yuan power swept out, transforming into a biting cold golden fist force. It instantly annihilated the incoming claw force, and at the same time forced the opponent back a few steps. Now, that is self-created martial art. The Dharma Fist had been cultivated to perfection. It was comparable to a true 7th grade martial art. Even if the current Fei Ren was unable to use his full strength, it was enough to repel Taoist Master White Tiger's attack. One more minute. After forcing Taoist Master White Tiger back with a punch, Fei Ren's figure flew straight into the sky. The pair of yuan power wings on his back were overflowing with colors as he chanted in his heart. Not far away, the experts of the 5 major tribes, Lu Qingfeng, and the rest were still fighting with the 3-legged golden crow. As for his battle with Taoist Master White Tiger, no one would notice. After all, Taoist Master White Tiger paled in comparison to the 3-legged golden crow. What? Stopping his body, Taoist Master White Tiger's eyes were filled with surprise and shock. If it was said that Fei Ren dodging his attack once was due to good luck, then 2, 3, or even a dozen times was not something that could be explained by good luck. Moreover, Fei Ren not only dodged his attack, but also broke his claw force with a punch. His strength was definitely not an ordinary 6th level martial master. This kid is indeed strange. He should be a genius from some sect or family in the outside world. Feeling bewildered, Taoist Master White Tiger finally understood Taoist Master Dark Corpse's reminder. Taoist Master Dark Corpse's yuan power cultivation had reached the 10th level martial master realm, and he also had a group of mummies and corpses under his command. However, he was unable to deal with a 6th level martial master junior like Fei Ren. There was obviously a reason for this. The strength of Fei Ren in front of him was no weaker than any half-step martial spirit realm expert. Beast taming technique. Thinking of this, Taoist Master White Tiger suddenly stopped his pursuit. In the next moment, he formed a seal with both hands and instantly summoned a fierce white tiger with a gray mane and white skin from the spirit ring. Roar! As soon as the white tiger appeared, it roared towards the sky and let out a series of heart-palpitating howls. The magic fluctuations on its body had reached the peak of the spirit rank, comparable to a half-step martial spirit realm expert. This guy has a magic pet under him? In the sky, looking at the ferocious gray-maned white tiger on the ground, Fei Ren could not help but feel a chill in his heart, and his face suddenly turned serious. Taoist Master White Tiger alone was difficult to deal with, and now there was a peak spirit rank White Tiger, which made the situation even worse. Moreover, there were still 30 seconds before his injuries recovered. He still had to stall for time. Isn't this kid injured? How is this possible? Not far away, Taoist Master Dark Corpse, who was watching the battle while swallowing pills to heal his injuries, was also shocked. He clearly felt that it was unbelievable. Up until now, although Taoist Master White Tiger had been suppressing Fei Ren, he was still unable to kill him. He even used his own magic pet. Moreover, on the other side, Taoist Master Spirit Snake was in a similar situation. Although he was slightly stronger than Puppet Little White, he was unable to deal with Puppet Little White's entanglement and was constantly being held back. Could it be that this kid was pretending to be weak? Impossible. Just as this thought appeared in his mind, Taoist Master Dark Corpse shook his head in denial. Taoist Master White Tiger and Taoist Master Spirit Snake were both half-step martial spirit realm cultivators, and each had a magic pet. If even the two of them couldn't deal with Fei Ren together, it was simply a fantasy. Moreover, if Fei Ren was really hiding his strength, there was no need for him to release Puppet Little White to stall Taoist Master Spirit Snake. A long night is fraught with dreams. Once my elemental energy recovers, I'll kill this kid. Although he felt that it was impossible, Taoist Master Dark Corpse had already made up his mind to kill Fei Ren for safety's sake. He planned to personally take action and kill Fei Ren together with Taoist Master White Tiger and his brother. After exhaling a breath of air, Taoist Master Dark Corpse once again circulated his cultivation method. At the same time, he sped up his healing and recovered his Dan Tian's elemental energy. In front of the ruins, the fierce battle continued. Roar! Its sharp claws slammed heavily on the ground, and the magical beast White Tiger suddenly roared towards the sky. It let out an ear-piercing beast roar, causing Fei Ren, who was in the sky, to tremble uncontrollably. It was as if he was affected by the beast's roar, causing him to be somewhat unstable in the air. White Tiger Claw! At this moment, under the cover of the magical beast White Tiger, Taoist Master White Tiger once again launched an attack. His figure soared into the sky, and at the same time, he clawed at Fei Ren. Bang! The powerful elemental energy mixed with the claw force ruthlessly imprinted on Fei Ren's chest, and an extremely powerful force suddenly swept out. Boom! Golden light appeared around Fei Ren's body, and a golden Buddha shadow appeared behind him. It was like an invisible barrier that reduced the power of Taoist Master White Tiger's claw by more than half. At the same time, the Immortal refining cauldron in his dantian suddenly appeared and floated around Fei Ren, dissipating the remaining power. Then, Fei Ren's figure rapidly fell to the ground. Boom! His figure fell to the ground, leaving behind a deep crater. Fei Ren's figure immediately disappeared. After an unknown period of time, a tall and thin figure finally appeared once again, swaying in the dust. Ugh! Slowly climbing up from the ruins on the ground, Fei Ren's appearance could be said to be extremely miserable. His clothes were tattered, and there were wounds all over his body. It could be seen that some of the wounds had just healed and formed scabs. His originally handsome face was also covered in blood and filth. My wounds are almost healed, although my elemental energy hasn't recovered. It's enough. Fortunately, I have the protection of the Dharma Golden Buddha body and the Immortal Refining Cauldron. I finally managed to hold on for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Now it's my turn to counterattack. The corner of his mouth curled up. Faerun clenched his fists tightly, his clear eyes filled with boundless killing intent. Like an unsheathed sword, he shot straight towards Taoist Master White Tiger, who was not far away, incomparably cold. White Tiger, it's time to die. Chapter 473. Previously, Faerun had yet to recover from his injuries and was unable to use his full strength. Now that his injuries had mostly recovered, even if his Dantian's origin energy had not recovered to its peak, it was enough to kill the White Tiger Taoist. This brat's aura has actually risen. At this moment, sensing the boundless killing intent in Faerun's eyes, the White Tiger Taoist's face froze, and he was greatly surprised. Previously, Faerun had been running and dodging and had not fought him head-on. Furthermore, the origin energy on his body was not strong and could not pose a threat to him. However, the Faerun in front of him seemed to have undergone a transformation. Not only had his injuries mostly recovered, but the origin energy on his body had also increased by several times, comparable to a true expert at the first level of the martial spirit realm. Dharma Golden Buddha Body. With a thought, a golden Buddha phantom with a magnificent aura appeared behind Faerun in the next moment. The golden Buddha phantom was infinitely close to being real. At the same time, it exuded a powerful and mysterious aura, as if a real Buddha had descended to the world. Kill! Stomping on the ground, Faerun rushed forward and arrived in front of the White Tiger. At the same time, he punched out with both fists. Compared to the half-step martial spirit realm White Tiger Taoist, the White Tiger Taoist subordinate was weaker and easier to deal with. As long as he killed the opponent's natal demon pet, the pressure on Faerun would be reduced. Brat, how dare you? Seeing Faerun charging towards his natal demon pet, the White Tiger Taoist shouted angrily and flew over as well. This White Tiger Taoist was a demon pet that he had carefully nurtured. He had spent many years of time and effort on it. If it died at the hands of Faerun, even a veteran half-step martial spirit realm expert like the White Tiger Taoist would feel heartache. Boom! The biting cold golden fist force swept out and turned into two meteor-like streaks of light. One on the left and one on the right, they instantly swept towards the White Tiger Taoist. At the same time, the wind whistled all over the place. It could be seen that the power was extraordinary. Roar! In the face of Faerun's all-out attack, the White Tiger let out a long roar and swept its huge tail towards Faerun. It seemed to intend to use offense as a form of defense to force Faerun to retreat. However, in the face of the White Tiger's counterattack, Faerun did not retreat. Instead, the golden Buddha behind him became more and more dazzling. TSK. Sizzle. The golden fist force instantly deflected the White Tiger's tail and then smashed into its body. A majestic Yuan Qi shock wave swept out and instantly penetrated the White Tiger's abdomen, causing blood to gush out. Roar! After letting out a mournful roar, the White Tiger magic beast collapsed to the ground as if it had suffered a heavy blow. Its eyes became unfocused and lifeless, and the magic fluctuations on its body suddenly plummeted. It seemed that it was not far from death. A top-tier spirit rank magical beast was still instantly killed by a single punch. With most of his injuries healed, Faerun's current strength was naturally not something that a mere top-tier spirit rank magical beast could stop. After severely injuring the White Tiger magic beast with a single punch, Faerun took advantage of the opportunity to pursue. He reached for the Azure Dragon, halberd on his back, and chopped off the head of the White Tiger magic beast, killing it completely. Little bastard, I want you dead. Seeing that the magical White Tiger had been killed instantly, White Tiger Taoist, who had arrived late, flew into a rage. He was unable to restrain his anger, and endless madness and cruelty appeared on his face. At the same time, he raised his hand and clawed at the other party's vital points. This demonic White Tiger was a top spiritual rank demonic beast. It was comparable to a half-step to martial spirit realm expert. At the same time, in order to cultivate it as his natal demonic pet, White Tiger Taoist had spent a lot of time and effort. Now that the White Tiger magic beast had died tragically at the hands of Fei Run, Taoist White Tiger naturally could not remain calm. His killing intent instantly exploded. White Tiger Claw. A large amount of Yuan Qi swept out and turned into a huge white tiger claw that charged towards Fei Run. This move again? But it's useless. Facing Taoist White Tiger's attack, Fei Ren brandished the Azure Dragon halberd in his hand, instantly slashing out dozens of Azure halberd lights, attacking his opponent. At the same time, his left hand formed a fist, and an extremely powerful Yuan Qi condensed in his palm, shooting out golden light in all directions. Dharma Fist. With a furious roar, the Azure halberd light and the golden fist energy shot out, enveloping Taoist White Tiger like an inescapable net. Rumble. In an instant, under Fei Ren's all-out counterattack, the White Tiger's huge claws shattered and turned into nothingness. Thump. In the next moment, Taoist White Tiger's chest was pierced through by the golden fist energy. His heart meridians were broken and blood flowed out like a fountain. Red and white objects could be seen splattering everywhere. His entire body's Yuan Qi aura had also dropped to the bottom. How is this possible? The light in his eyes gradually dissipated as he looked at Fei Run with anger and unwillingness. In the next moment, Taoist White Tiger's body finally fell to the ground, completely dead. Even if he was a half-step to martial spirit realm, he still couldn't block Fei Ren's all-out attack. Acquired Tyrant Body and Rank 7 Martial Arts. Fei Ren had cultivated both to the point of perfection. With the combination of power, not to mention Taoist White Tiger, who was only a half-step to martial spirit realm, even a level 1 martial spirit realm expert would die. Swoosh! After dealing with Taoist White Tiger, Fei Run, who had pulled himself out, immediately rushed to Puppet Little White's aid. At this moment, Puppet Little White was still fighting fiercely with Taoist Spirit Snake. Even though Taoist Spirit Snake had summoned his natal demon pet, a black spirit snake that was dozens of feet long, he still couldn't do anything to Puppet Little White. Big brother, not far away, Taoist Spirit Snake, who was fighting with Little White, also noticed that Taoist White Tiger's aura had abruptly disappeared. Taoist White Tiger had already died, and his expression was immediately filled with shock. Dense fear and anger instantly appeared on his face. Originally, he had planned to deal with Puppet Little White in front of him, then free himself to deal with Fei Run. However, he had never thought that the White Tiger Taoist, who was half a step into the martial spirit realm and had a White Tiger as a subordinate, would be killed by Fei Run, who was only at the 6th level of the martial master realm. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, Taoist Spirit Snake wouldn't have dared to believe that there was such a freak like Fei Run in this world who could kill people who were several levels higher. Go down and be buried with him. At this moment, Taoist Spirit Snake had yet to come back to his senses. In the next moment, Fei Ren's cold voice came from afar, as if it was asking for his life. Along with a blood-curdling scream, Taoist Spirit Snake's body slowly fell to the ground. His eyes were unfocused, and the meridians in his chest were also shattered by Fei Ren's punch. Blood splattered everywhere. Gotcha! As if it wasn't enough to vent its anger, Little White, who was nearby, flew over and chopped off Taoist Spirit Snake's head with a single slash. Its empty eyes were filled with a ghastly glint. With Taoist Spirit Snake dead, the Black Spirit Snake reared by his subordinates naturally couldn't escape the calamity. Puppet Little White raised its blade and chopped it into meat paste. At the same time, it took out the demon core from the snake's body and handed it to Fei Ren. After dealing with Taoist White Tiger and Taoist Spirit Snake, Fei Ren gently spat out a mouthful of turbid air. Then he looked at Taoist Ghost Corpse, who had already peed his pants and whose face was filled with fear. Taoist Ghost Corpse, this time, your 2 helpers are dead. It seems like your wish to kill me has failed. Chapter 474. The other party had been plotting to kill him all this time, and now he had even found two half-step martial spirit realm experts to help him. If not for the fact that his injuries had healed, coupled with the power of the Dharma Golden Buddha body, Fei Run might have died at the hands of the other party. Two half-step martial spirit realm experts, one 10th level martial master, and a pile of corpses and magic pets. If it were any other expert of the 6th level martial master realm, even if they were young geniuses from famous clans or top sects, they would most likely not be able to escape this calamity. After all, not everyone had heaven-defying luck like Fei Run, who had endless trump cards and a large number of opportunities. Don't kill me. I beg you. I was wrong. Facing Fei Ren's murderous gaze, the dark corpse Taoist trembled and knelt on the ground, trembling like a sieve. Although after a period of recuperation, his origin energy and state had recovered to their peak, he was still no match for Fei Ren. After all, Fei Ren's strength was there for all to see. Even the half-step martial spirit realm experts, White Tiger Taoist and Spirit Snake Taoist, had died tragically on the spot, not to mention a mere 10th level martial master. Moreover, the dark corpse Taoist strength was almost all in the corpse refining technique. Previously, in order to escape from Fei Ren's hands, he had exhausted almost all of his corpses and incorpses. Right now, it was already considered good that he could use half of his strength. As for the reason why the Dark Corpse Taoist could suppress Fei Ren before, it was because the other party had been injured by the three-legged golden crow and his strength had yet to recover. Swish! In a flash, Fei Ren's figure landed in front of the Dark Corpse Taoist. He held the Azure Dragon halberd tightly in his right hand, and a cold light shot out from the halberd in all directions. Give me a reason not to kill you. Young hero, this lowly one is an elder of the Bone Sect. Our Bone Sect makes a living by killing and robbing people. We have collected a lot of treasures. These treasures are all kept in a secret vault, and this lowly one happens to know the location of these vaults. Looking at Fei Ren's cold and indifferent face, the Dark Corpse Taoist, who seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw, repeatedly nodded his head, after which he opened his mouth and spoke. His tone was filled with fear and trepidation, as if he was afraid that the other party would directly kill him with a halberd strike. Young hero, please give me a way out and spare my life. It was all a misunderstanding before. His head heavily knocked onto the ground, making a series of noises. Even when his forehead was soaked with blood, Taoist Ghost Corpse didn't dare to stop. His desire to live was extremely strong. There's no need. Glancing at the Dark Corpse Taoist who was kneeling on the ground, Fei Ren only smiled coldly. Then, the green dragon halberd in his hand struck out and instantly pierced through the Dark Corpse Taoist's chest meridian. Then, the Dark Corpse Taoist was completely crushed. Even an immortal could not save him. You, little bastard, the Bone Sect will not let you off. You definitely won't be able to escape. Feeling an ice-cold feeling coming from his chest, the Dark Corpse Taoist spat out a mouthful of blood in the next moment. Endless resentment and anger surged on his face. Then, his life force gradually disappeared. His entire body fell to the ground with a loud bang and completely stopped moving. Before his death, the Dark Corpse Taoist never thought that even though he begged for mercy so humbly and even told him the location of the Bone Sect treasury, Fei Ren still wanted to kill him without the slightest hesitation. Bastard, this young master was almost killed by you. You still want to live? Dream on. After withdrawing the green dragon halberd, Fei Ren also lifted his foot and kicked the Dark Corpse Taoist's corpse as he cursed. Now that he had killed the Dark Corpse Taoist, other than for revenge, it was also to eliminate the root of the problem. Although the Dark Corpse Taoist and the Bone Sect behind him couldn't pose a threat to him, he wouldn't let the Dark Corpse Taoist in front of him escape, or at least spare his life. The feeling of being stared at in the dark made Fei Ren feel very uncomfortable. Therefore, no matter how the Dark Corpse Taoist begged for mercy, or even told him the location of the Bone Sect's treasury, he would kill him without hesitation. As for the Bone Sect's treasury, Fei Ren's interest was also ordinary. Although the Bone Sect was notorious in the Great Ming Dynasty and almost everyone knew about it, it was only a rank 7 force after all. Moreover, it often had to avoid the pursuit of the righteous forces. Fei Ren had a rough idea of what treasures could be collected in the Bone Sect's treasury, so it wasn't that attractive to him. After killing the Dark Corpse Taoist and the White Tiger Taoist brothers, Fei Ren didn't waste their corpses. He immediately summoned the Immortal Refining Cauldron in his Dantian and used the refining power of the Immortal Refining Cauldron to devour the remaining life essence and turn it into pure origin power. Fei Ren also didn't let go of the dead White Tiger Taoist and the Black Spiritual Snake. They were all refined and absorbed. Now that the strange inscriptions on the Immortal Refining Cauldron had been partially restored, the refining power had greatly increased. Not to mention living creatures like demonic beasts and humans, even treasures that were full of spiritual qi, as well as spiritual treasure weapons, could be refined by Fei Ren and turned into his own cultivation to increase his strength. At the moment, the spirit ring in his hand was stuffed full of treasures and there wasn't any extra space. Therefore, Fei Ren didn't pick up the spirit rings left behind by the Dark Corpse Taoist and the White Tiger Taoist. It could be said that he didn't care about them at all. In front of the ruins, Fei Ren was sitting cross-legged. The earth-shattering battle not far away didn't affect his cultivation at all. I'm only one step away from the rank 7 Martial Master Realm. As a large amount of pure origin energy entered his body, Fei Ren's body shook in the next moment. His eyes shot out a ray of light, and his aura reached another peak. He was extremely powerful. At the same time, the blood scabs on his body slowly fell off, revealing his strong muscles and vest lines. Although his face was stained with blood and filth, it could be seen that Fei Ren's spirit had recovered to its peak state. Moreover, his origin energy cultivation was not far from breaking through to the rank 7 Martial Master Realm. After the refining was completed, the corpses of the Dark Corpse Taoist and the White Tiger Taoist turned into dust. Boom! Suddenly, before Fei Ren could heave a sigh of relief, a deafening rumble of thunder came from the sky not far away, followed by a sharp cry of the Golden Crow. Roar! The Golden Crow's cry resounded through the sky. At the same time, an extremely powerful demonic aura spread around the ruins. Some of the weaker rogue cultivators couldn't resist the pressure of this demonic aura and died on the spot, bleeding from their 7 orifices. Congenital bloodline power. Could it be that this beast is going to release the world-extinguishing, sky-burning flame? Looking at the sky not far away, Fei Ren's face changed slightly in the face of the 3-legged golden crow's soaring wings and sharp cry. A sense of uneasiness gushed out from his expression. At this time, facing the joint attack of the 5 tribes and the experts of Qingfeng City, the 3-legged golden crow in the sky couldn't kill everyone in a short time. It was completely enraged and did not hesitate to display the congenital bloodline power. The 3-legged golden crow had a trace of the bloodline of the ancient spiritual beast, the golden crow. It could display the congenital bloodline power and spit out the world-extinguishing sky-burning flame that could destroy the earth and even kill all living things. For the 3-legged golden crow in the sky, the bloodline power in its body was very scarce. It could only release the world-extinguishing sky-burning flame once in a short time. However, even if it was only once, the power of the world-extinguishing sky-burning flame was enough to kill most of the warriors present. Ordinary warriors couldn't resist it. As for the terrifying power of the world-extinguishing sky-burning flame and the rumors, Fei Ren had learned about it in an ancient book. Naturally, he was very clear about it. Chapter 475. At the same time, the experts of the 5 tribes in the Windy City also noticed the abnormality of the 3-legged golden crow, and they were all shocked. It's the congenital bloodline power. Lu Qingfeng, the governor of the Windy City, looked solemn and then whispered. As the governor of the Windy City and a veteran expert of LV1 Martial Spirit Realm, he naturally knew the strength of the three-legged golden crow in front of him. It was far stronger than an ordinary martial spirit realm expert, not to mention that it had the congenital bloodline power. Once the three-legged golden crow burst out the congenital bloodline power in its body, it would release the world-destroying, sky-burning flame. It was conceivable that most of the people present would suffer. They would even be instantly devoured and melted by the world-destroying, sky-burning flame. They would be unable to resist and turn into a pile of ashes. In the previous fierce battle, although the experts of the 5 tribes and the Windy City worked together to successfully hold the three-legged golden crow in the sky so that it could not continue to wreak havoc, it was only a check and balance. They still could not kill the three-legged golden crow. Even in the continuous counterattack of the three-legged golden crows, many people from the 5 tribes and the Windy City were killed or injured. Even Indra, Du Qing, Lu Qingfeng, and others were injured, but it was not serious, not to mention the other warriors and rogue cultivators present. Damn it, why hasn't a boss brought anyone here yet? His figure flashed, and he once again avoided the remaining power of the three-legged golden crow's claw. The next moment, Indra also slowly landed on the ground below, with a touch of uncertainty in his eyes. At this time, half an hour had passed since the ruins of the imperial palace and the birth of the three-legged golden crow. However, he still did not find any trace of the people of the Dali tribe. Whether it was the patriarch Abbas or the experts of the Dali tribe, they seemed to have disappeared from the world. However, Indra did not know that Abbas and the experts of the Dali tribe had already died in the hands of Fei Run and would never come to support him. Indra, this golden-haired beast, seems to be angry. The situation is not good. On the other side, Du Qing and Hull also left the battlefield and then retreated to the side of the sky, glancing at Indra below. After all, Indra was the patriarch of the Paluo tribe and one of the few experts of LV1 martial spirit realm. Facing the three-legged golden crow's fury, they naturally had to rely on Indra's power. Otherwise, once the three-legged golden crow's sky-burning flame, at least half of the people present would be killed or injured, or even all of them. What else can we do? Let's kill it. Facing the gazes of Du Qing, Coke, and the others, Indra's face was gloomy. Then, the elemental energy around his body surged, and his figure soared into the sky again. It seemed that he intended to take the initiative to kill the three-legged golden crow while it was accumulating energy. Lord, Indra Lu Qingfeng, Lu Indra Ingen, Indra into mountain. Indra in. His cultivation was only at LV10 Martial Master Realm. If he was targeted by the three-legged golden crow, he could be killed with one claw. Even the power of the innate bloodline, world-extinguishing sky-burning flame, did not need to be used. Moreover, if the joint attack of the people present had not completely infuriated the three-legged golden crow, it would not have gone berserk on the spot and even used the innate bloodline power. Go! Lu Qingfeng's gaze swept across his subordinates, who were all seriously injured. Lu Qingfeng gripped his long sword and clenched his teeth as he spoke. A resolute expression appeared on his elderly face. They would die if they ran or not. Once the three-legged golden crow finished accumulating power and released the terrifying world-extinguishing, sky-burning flame, everyone present would be dead for sure. Therefore, Lu Qingfeng could only bite the bullet. In front of the ruins, this beast's aura has become a lot stronger. How is it possible? Even a Middle-Earth ranked demonic beast can't compare to this terrifying magic power fluctuation. Are we going to die here today? Facing the rising magic power of the three-legged golden crow in the sky, the surrounding warriors felt a deep sense of despair. They could not help but panic. Previously, they could not do anything to the three-legged golden crow, even when they joined forces. Now that the three-legged golden crow's magic power had increased by a lot, it was infinitely close to a Middle-Earth ranked demonic beast. Everyone present was powerless against it. Big brother, are we still going to attack? Kublai's face was serious. He was also covered in wounds. He looked at Zhang Han beside him and panted. Although the three-legged golden crow's target was not him, he was still injured. His left leg and right shoulder were injured, and he was at his limit. If not for the elixir that he took to maintain his fighting strength, he would not have been able to last even a minute. "Why don't we run?" Just as he finished speaking, the green-robed old man beside him spoke. His tone was full of fear. After all, the three-legged golden crow in the sky was a low Earth-rank demonic beast. Now that it had unleashed its bloodline power, its magic power was infinitely close to a Middle Earth-rank demonic beast. Even if everyone present joined forces, they would not be a match for the three-legged golden crow. In the green-robed old man's opinion, fighting head-on would only lead to death. Run? Can we run? Faced with the green-robed old man's suggestion, Zhang Han's lips curled into a bitter smile. Right now, everyone had joined forces to hold back the three-legged golden crow. Once they scattered and fled, not to mention whether they could escape, only a few of them would be able to survive. Among the people present, no one dared to say that they could survive the pursuit of a low, Earth-rank demonic beast. Roar! At this moment, the three-legged golden crow in the sky had finally finished accumulating its power. In the next moment, the beast's body shone with golden light. At the same time, it opened its mouth and spat out a huge, blazing fireball. One could vaguely see a fiery figure in the center of the fireball. It was as if there was a fire dragon circling around it, emitting a destructive aura. World-destroying, sky-incinerating flame. The three-legged golden crow's bloodline power. Boom! Rumble. The moment the huge fireball appeared, it instantly exploded and turned into countless blazing flames. The aura of the innate bloodline power was even more violent. Countless raging flames spread across a radius of tens of thousands of feet, or even hundreds of thousands of feet, like a mighty army passing through. The fire was swift and fierce, instantly enveloping the surrounding sky and even the ground. Boom! When the heavenly fire descended, all living beings were slaughtered. Ah! 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 In an instant, countless warriors were swallowed by the endless blazing flames and turned into ashes. They only let out a series of shrill screams before they were turned into ashes on the spot. Not even their corpses were left behind. At this moment, the ruins of the Imperial Palace were surrounded by a sea of fire. It was like purgatory. Damn it! At this moment, in the face of the blazing flames, Fei Ren's face twitched. The golden Buddha shadow appeared behind him instantly. At the same time, he summoned the immortal refining cauldron from the depths of his dantian to protect himself. The protective original energy around him was also operated to the limit. At this moment, the flames from the three-legged golden crow's mouth were extremely powerful, the world-destroying, sky-burning flame. Its temperature was even hotter than the three true fire in the ninth heaven. At the same time, its power was even more violent. As for the ordinary spiritual fire and elixir fire, they were no match for it. Even if it was only a small wisp of the world-destroying, sky-burning flame, warriors below LV8 Martial Manor realm would definitely die if they touched it. Therefore, Fei Ren did not dare to be careless. Moreover, the world-destroying, sky-burning flame's range was extremely wide. He could not escape from the impact of the world-destroying, sky-burning flame in a short time. He could only defend himself with all his strength. Chapter 476. Boom! Rumble. Just as Fei Ren was using all his strength to defend himself, a large amount of blazing flames swept over, instantly engulfing his body. It was as if he was in a sea of fire. Only a little bit of golden light could be seen. Everywhere was filled with heart-palpitating heat and the remaining power of the flames. Even the two golden crow statues made of solid boulders at the entrance of the palace ruins were melted by the endless flames in an instant. Like those warriors who died tragically, they turned into scorched earth and ashes. No one knew how long it had been. The boundless flames finally subsided, and the air was filled with a terrifyingly high temperature. At this moment, the surroundings of the imperial palace had turned into scorched earth, and it couldn't even be considered a ruin anymore. Everywhere, there were ashes of burnt corpses and pools of terrifying bloodstains. Roar! At this moment, the three-legged golden crow in the sky once again let out a sharp cry. At the same time, it opened a pair of huge wings, stirring up bursts of wind whistling, as if celebrating its victory. The pair of furious red beast eyes gradually returned to their original state. After releasing the world-extinguishing sky-burning flame, the magical power fluctuation on the three-legged golden crow began to decline. It once again returned to the level of Earth rank low level. At the same time, the golden light on its body that was originally shining dimmed slightly. It seemed that using the innate bloodline power consumed a lot of magical power of the three-legged golden crow, so it could not be used frequently. Although the strength of the three-legged golden crow in front of him had declined, it was not even as strong as when it was just resurrected. However, at this time, the situation of the 5 major tribes, the people of Qingfeng City, and the rogue cultivators present was even worse. After going through the baptism of the world-extinguishing burning sky flame, there were very few warriors who could survive. Most of the warriors were swallowed up by the endless raging flames, leaving nothing behind. Only a small number of warriors were lucky enough to escape this calamity. Somewhere in the ruins. Boom! Rumble! A golden light suddenly appeared. The next moment, a fist was seen protruding from it. In an instant, all the debris around was blown away. Then, a slightly embarrassed figure in a gray robe also flashed out from it. There was some lingering fear on his handsome face. Damn it, I almost lost my life. As the golden light vanished, Fei Ren felt the Dantian's origin energy that was close to drying up in his body. Then, he heavily exhaled a mouthful of turbid air with a solemn expression. Just earlier, for the sake of resisting the impact of the world obliteration, heaven incinerating flame, the innate bloodline energy of the three-legged sun crow, he'd utilized all his trump cards. He'd utilized the Dharma Gold Buddha physique and the Immortal Refinement Cauldron, and at the same time, he'd exhausted almost all the origin energy in his Dantian to barely preserve his life. Even so, his left arm was still injured by the remaining power of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame. Half of his arm was blood red. The newly formed skin and flesh had been destroyed by the endless raging flames. Even the scabs hadn't formed yet. At this moment, he was still in pain. "You golden-haired beast, I'm going to skin you alive and make a stew out of you." Glancing at his scarred left arm, Fei Ren gritted his teeth. A trace of anger flashed across his face. In the next moment, he raised his head and looked at the three-legged sun crow in the sky. The world-extinguishing burning heaven flame, the innate bloodline energy of the three-legged sun crow, was indeed extremely powerful. With his current origin energy cultivation, even if he fully utilized the Dharma Gold Buddha physique, he still wouldn't be able to resist the impact of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame. The reason why Fei Ren could survive the impact of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame was largely due to the Immortal Refinement Cauldron. Just as his Dharma Gold Buddha physique was about to collapse and dissipate, the Immortal Refinement Cauldron that was protecting his body erupted with an endless devouring power. After encountering the Immortal Refinement Cauldron's devouring power, the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame, which had originally been extremely destructive, melted like snow and quickly retreated. A part of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame was refined by the Immortal Refinement Cauldron into harmless, pure energy that flowed into Fei Ren's Dantian. With the help of the energy of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame, his origin energy cultivation showed signs of breaking through again. My origin energy cultivation has reached a critical point. Am I going to break through again? At this time, Fei Ren also noticed the abnormality in his Dantian. Although there was not much origin energy left in his body, after absorbing a part of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame, he was also on the verge of breaking through. He was only a thin layer away from the LV7 Martial Master Realm. He only needed to gently break through, and he would naturally break through. Let's break through first, then plan for the next step. Sitting cross-legged on the spot, Fei Ren took out several high-grade elixirs from his spiritual ring before the three-legged golden crow in the sky launched the next round of attacks. Among them, there was no lack of grade 5 elixirs. Then he swallowed them like jelly beans and began to cultivate. These elixirs were obtained from the treasury of the Imperial Palace ruins. There were a lot of them, about tens of thousands of them, so Fei Ren was not stingy when he ate them. Right now, his idea was very simple. That was to break through his cultivation. When his origin energy cultivation broke through, the origin energy in his dantian, which was almost exhausted, could be instantly replenished. At that time, when facing the next round of attacks from the three-legged golden crow, Fei Ren's chances of escaping or saving his life would be greater. Just as Fei Ren was preparing to break through, dozens of figures with weak auras appeared from the ruins not far away. Everyone was injured. They seemed to be warriors who had luckily survived the attack of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame. At this moment, everyone's face was filled with fear. Are we saved? It seems that this beast's innate bloodline power has been exhausted. Damn it! His figure rushed out from the ruins. His gaze swept around. Indra's eyes were also solemn. Under his sleeves, his fists were clenched tightly. His entire face was not looking good. There was no other reason. At this time, in the Paluo tribe's team, except for him, the chief, the other experts had all died. No one could survive the devastation of the world, extinguishing burning heaven flame. Besides the Paluo tribe, the other tribes and the group of rogue cultivators were also the same. There were not many warriors who could survive. Even if all of them were added together, there were only about 10 or 20 people. Before the three-legged golden crow was resurrected, there were hundreds of warriors gathered in the Imperial Palace main hall. However, now more than 90% of them had died. Only 10 or 20 people were left. It was enough to show the terrifying power of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame. In addition, facing the devastation of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame, the situation of the Clear Wind City's team was even more tragic. They were even more unlucky than the people of the 5 major tribes. Not only were they completely annihilated, but even the city lord, Lu Qingfeng, was killed. He was swallowed by the endless flames, and his body was not left behind. How could this be? Lu Qingfeng is dead. Not far away, the chief of the Shadi tribe, Du Qing, also climbed out from the ruins. In the next moment, his face was filled with horror. Just a moment ago, he suddenly felt that Lu Qingfeng's Yuan power aura was no longer in the vicinity. Moreover, the experts of the Clear Wind City were all either dead or injured. They had all died under the impact of the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame. As the city lord of the Clear Wind City, Lu Qingfeng was also one of the few level 1 martial spirit realm experts present. Now that even he had died under the world-extinguishing burning heaven flame of the three-legged golden crow, it undoubtedly made the situation worse. At present, there were only 10 or 20 warriors left. They were even more powerless to resist the ferocious three-legged golden crow in the sky. Chapter 477. It's over, it's all over. Thinking about this, Du Qing's heart sank, and his face turned pale. The gigantic saber sword in his hand trembled slightly, and his aura plummeted. Up until now, most of the Kshadi tribe's experts had been killed, and only 1 or 2 of his trusted subordinates were still alive. Moreover, their cultivation was only around the 10th level of the martial master realm, and they could not turn the tide of the battle. Apart from that, it was the same for the Taishu and Sichuo tribes. Only He, Zhang Han, and a few others had survived, while the others had all died. Even the 3rd elder, Kublai, who had fought Fei Run before, was not spared. In the previous battle, Kublai had been injured, and he was naturally unable to resist the world-destroying sky-burning flame of the three-legged golden crow. At this point, 3 of the 5 elders of the Sichuo tribe had died, and only the 2nd elder and 1st elder Zhang Han were left. Now that third elder is dead. Are we all going to die here? Looking at the ruins and scorched earth, Zhang Han's expression was solemn. Just now, he had seen the scene of Kublai and the others dying in the world-destroying sky-burning flame, but he was powerless. After all, even he himself could not resist the world-destroying sky-burning flame, and he had only survived because of luck. Moreover, he was injured, and his combat power was less than 10%. If the three-legged golden crow in the sky attacked again, Zhang Han knew that he would not be able to escape death. Big brother, that beast's demonic aura seems to have dropped. We still have a chance to escape. At the side, the green-robed elder's expression was also dark, but he was looking at the three-legged golden crow in the sky. In his view, it was impossible to stay here and wait for death, and it was even more impossible to avenge Kublai and the others. Right now, the only chance was to escape while the three-legged golden crow was exhausted. Is there really a chance? Hearing this, Zhang Han also raised his head to look at the sky. He sensed that the demonic aura of the three-legged golden crow in the sky had once again fallen to Earth rank low level, or even a little weaker. He frowned slightly, his expression uncertain. Meanwhile, on the other side, after swallowing a large number of elixirs and borrowing the pure yuan power contained within the elixirs, Fei Ren finally reached the brink of a breakthrough. Boom! In the depths of his dantian, there was suddenly a weak sound of water ripples, like a spring breeze blowing across a lake. In the next moment, Fei Ren's body shook, and he suddenly stood up, emitting an invisible and powerful aura. The aura of his yuan power had already reached the level of level 7 martial master. 7th level martial master realm. Narrowing his eyes, Fei Ren sensed the explosive power that filled his body. He spat out a mouthful of turbid air, and a look of joy appeared on his face. This time, other than his cultivation breaking through to the 7th level of the martial master realm, his strength had increased greatly. His dantian, which was originally close to exhaustion, was instantly replenished and restored to its peak state. That golden-haired beast's innate bloodline power has been exhausted, so it can't release the world-destroying, sky-incinerating flame anymore. As long as Puppet Little White and these people can buy some time, I will have a chance to kill it. Holding the green dragon halberd tightly in his right hand, Fei Ren also looked up at the three-legged golden crow in the sky, not far away, and pondered. After his yuan power cultivation broke through to the 7th level of the martial master realm, his strength had now more than doubled. He was infinitely close to a level 2 martial spirit realm expert, far stronger than an ordinary level 1 martial spirit realm expert. If the surviving Indra, Du Qing, Coke, and the others could delay the three-legged golden crow for a while, Fei Ren would have a chance to reverse the situation and kill the three-legged golden crow in front of him. After all, after releasing the innate bloodline power of the world-destroying sky-incinerating flame, the three-legged golden crow's strength was not as good as before. Its demonic aura had decreased a lot, and it was slightly weaker than an ordinary low-level Earth-ranked demonic beast. Swoosh! His figure broke through the air and came to the center of the ruins. Fei Ren looked at Indra and said, "Patriarch Indra, it seems that we have to join forces now." Indra's yuan power cultivation was at level 1 martial spirit realm. His strength and combat experience were not ordinary. The fact that he could survive the impact of the world-destroying, sky-incinerating flame was a proof of his strength. Now, if he could delay the three-legged golden crow and attract its firepower, then he would have a chance to kill the three-legged golden crow. "It's you, kid?" Seeing that it was Fei Ren, Indra was surprised and showed a trace of disbelief. His yuan power cultivation was only at level 7 martial master realm, but he could survive the impact of the world-destroying, sky-incinerating flame. Naturally, Indra was very surprised. After all, even the governor of Windy City, Lu Qingfeng, who was at level 1 martial spirit realm, died and turned into a pile of ashes under the impact of the world-destroying, sky-incinerating flame. Although Lu Qingfeng's death was unfortunate, the fact that Fei Ren was still alive meant that he had something up his sleeves. "Do you have a way to deal with this beast?" After a pause, Indra asked in a probing tone, "As long as you can delay this beast for a moment, I will have a chance to cut off its head." Nodding, Fei Ren looked calm. "Kid, although you are not from the 5 major tribes, I will believe you for the time being." Gritting his teeth, Indra shot out and went straight to the 3-legged golden crow in the sky. In the current situation, if they did not kill the 3-legged golden crow, no one would survive. Therefore, even if he did not believe in Fei Ren, he had to bite the bullet. Swoosh! Immediately after, just as Indra moved, Fei Ren also condensed a pair of Yuan power wings behind him, holding the halberd and breaking through the sky. "It's Fei Ren. What should we do? We're going to die anyway. Let's fight." At this time, seeing Indra and Fei Ren rushing to the sky and killing the 3-legged golden crow, Coke, Zhang Han, and the others on the ground looked at each other, and then, without hesitation, they activated their Yuan power and joined the battle. After all, if the 3-legged golden crow did not die, they would not be able to escape. Roar! At this time, in the face of the continuous attacks from the crowd, the 3-legged golden crow in the sky was getting more and more disadvantaged. It let out a long roar, and its beast eyes became extremely red. It was very angry, but it was powerless to fight back. After all, it had used the innate bloodline power earlier and consumed a lot of devil power. Now that the 3-legged golden crow was in a short period of weakness, its strength was not as strong as before. After a while, the 3-legged golden crow's wings were covered with wounds, and blood appeared on them. Even the golden light on its sharp claws was slightly dimmed at this moment. Seeing the 3-legged golden crow's decline, the crowd's attacks became fiercer, and they all used their special skills. Sword Blade Storm. In the sky, Du Qing roared. The next moment, he raised the gigantic sword in his hand high, and then slashed down. A large amount of Yuan power, mixed with a black sword light, like a tornado, attacked the 3-legged golden crow opposite him. After the slash, Du Qing's face suddenly became pale. It seemed that the slash had also drained the little Yuan power left in his body. Bang! Boom! The 3-legged golden crow flapped its wings, and the next moment, a golden gust of wind rolled up, intending to block the attack of the sword blade storm. Although it blocked most of the attack, its claws and left wing were still injured by the remaining power of the sword blade storm. At the same time, its devil power aura plummeted again. Good chance. Seizing the opportunity, Fei Ren on the other side of the sky also punched out. A large amount of golden fist energy swept out, and at the same time, the green dragon halberd in his right hand shot out, instantly piercing toward the 3-legged golden crow not far away, aiming at its head. Bang! Poochie! The fist energy swept out, and the halberd broke through the sky. The next moment, the golden fist energy also hit the 3-legged golden crow's beast body fiercely. At the same time, the sharp green dragon halberd pierced the 3-legged golden crow's left eye. In an instant, blood splattered, and then the entire head was pierced through like a stick of candied haws, with irresistible force. Roar! After suffering a fatal blow, the 3-legged golden crow also let out a long and mournful cry, and then the beast body powerlessly fell to the ground below, leaving a huge pit. Its devil power aura was completely gone, and it was completely dead. Chapter 478. In the ruins, in front of the pothole after the 3-legged golden crow fell, the flickering golden light on its body also gradually faded and then disappeared. The 3 sharp claws that were originally incomparably sharp also slowly fell at this moment, revealing the hideous white bones. Its pair of wings shook as if they were about to break. Like an ordinary magical beast corpse, it became extremely fragile, as if it could be easily blown into powder with a punch. At this moment, the wind whistled. Swoosh! After killing the 3-legged golden crow with one blow, Fei Ren's figure slowly landed on the ground, with drops of sweat dripping from his forehead. If the three-legged golden crow in front of him had not used its innate bloodline power and was in a weakened state, its strength would not have been half of its previous strength. Even with the help of Indra and the others, it would not have been so easy to kill it. However, now that the three-legged golden crow was dead, the crisis of life and death had been resolved. There is no demonic power aura. It seems that this beast is really dead. In the sky, Coke's face was solemn, and then he looked at the three-legged golden crow's corpse on the ground. After he found that the three-legged golden crow was no longer moving and there was no demonic power aura, he was immediately surprised. After all, Faerun in front of him was only at LV7 Martial Master Realm, which was at the bottom among the survivors. On the other hand, the three-legged golden crow was a genuine Earth rank low-level demonic beast. Even if it had used its innate bloodline power and was temporarily in a weakened state, it was still an existence that ordinary warriors could not contend with. However, Faerun had broken everyone's understanding. Not only did he see through the three-legged golden crow's flaws and weaknesses, but he also killed it with one blow. This kid's strength has become stronger again. Du Qing clenched the gigantic sword in his hand, and his eyes also moved away from the three-legged golden crow's corpse, and then fell on Faerun with a shocked expression. With Faerun's current strength, he was no weaker than any half-step martial spirit realm expert, and even comparable to a LV1 martial spirit realm expert. How could this be? Is this kid a freak? Collecting his thoughts, a strange expression appeared on Du Qing's face. The improvement of the other party's strength had greatly exceeded his imagination. After all, Faerun's origin energy cultivation was only at level 6 Martial Master Realm before everyone entered the Imperial Palace ruins. Although he had killed Hormusi from the Dali tribe with a single punch, it did not attract the attention of the higher-ups from the 5 major tribes. However, Faerun was undoubtedly the center of attention. After all, the three-legged golden crow was killed by him. Faerun, brat, as expected of you. Flowing light flickered in the sky nearby. A moment later, Zhang Han landed in front of Faerun, a trace of sorrow appearing on his aged face. After all, the other party was a genius disciple of the Scorching Sun sect, a 6th-rank sect. His strength was extraordinary and could not be compared to ordinary martial artists. Senior Grand Elder, we've finally escaped this calamity. Faerun nodded in agreement as he looked at Zhang Han's rueful face. Meanwhile, on the other side, what a powerful kid. Back then, this kid's origin energy cultivation was only at level 2 Martial Master Realm. I didn't expect his strength to grow to such a level after the trip to the ancestral mausoleum. Looking at Faerun from the corner of his eye, Indra withdrew his origin energy. His face was solemn as he took out a recovery elixir from his spiritual ring and consumed it. Back in the Paluo tribe, Faerun had followed Zhang Han and the others. Hence, Indra had a good impression of him. However, Indra himself did not know that Faerun was a genius disciple of the 6th-rank Scorching Sun sect. He only knew that the other party was not from the 5 major tribes, but a martial artist from the outside world. This kid seems to have a good relationship with Zhang Han. This is not good. I can't let my plan be ruined. As though he suddenly thought of something, Indra retracted his gaze and looked at the green-robed elder not far away. The green-robed elder was the 2nd elder of the Shichuo tribe. Unlike Zhang Han and the others, he had always been hostile toward Faerun. Wang Li, where did this kid come from? Indra's face was serious as he transmitted a message to the old man in green. The old man was called Wang Li, and he was not weak. He was at level 10 Martial Master Realm. In addition to his identity as the 2nd elder of the Shichuo tribe, the old man in green was also a spy. He was a pawn that Indra had planted in the Shichuo tribe many years ago. His purpose was to control the Shichuo tribe and provide him with the necessary information. Chief Indra, this person is called Faerun. His strength is not bad. I don't know much about him, but I heard that he seems to be from the Scorching Sun sect. It's the overlord force in the Eastern Sun region, the 6th-rank Scorching Sun sect. In response to Indra's inquiry, Wang Li quickly replied with a cautious tone. This kid is from the Scorching Sun sect in the Eastern Sun region. No wonder. Hearing this, Indra took a deep breath and looked thoughtful. Apparently, he knew a little about the Scorching Sun sect behind Fei Run. In his opinion, since Fei Run was from the Scorching Sun sect, it was not surprising that he had such strength. Guys, look! What is that? At this moment, just as everyone was heaving a sigh of relief, another exclamation came from the survivors. The tone of the exclamation was filled with shock. What? Before the voice died away, everyone looked over. Then, their gazes fell on the huge pit where the three-legged golden crow's corpse was. The next moment, they stopped abruptly, and their faces were full of shock. In front of the huge pit, the three-legged golden crow's corpse had turned into a pile of bones. Not even a demon core was left. The speed at which the corpse disappeared was several times faster than ordinary demonic beasts. It was very strange. At the same time, a pitch-black spiritual sword with a little bit of cold light also appeared out of thin air. At this moment, it was suspended above the skeleton of the three-legged golden crow. At the same time, it exuded a majestic and boundless spiritual fluctuation, which was daunting. It seemed to be a spiritual treasure of high grade. Moreover, on the right side of the black spiritual sword, there was also a mysterious ancient saber suspended. However, unlike the black spiritual sword, this mysterious ancient saber was also a spiritual treasure, but the spiritual chi fluctuation on it was very obscure, like a monk in meditation. The two seemed to have come from the same source, one on the left and one on the right. It was very strange. What a strong spiritual chi fluctuation. This spiritual treasure is probably not weaker than grade 7. His gaze fell on the mysterious ancient saber and the black spiritual sword not far away, and a surviving rogue cultivator was shocked. Although his primary power cultivation was only at LV-10 martial mentor realm, which was far inferior to Indra, Du Qing, and Coke, he could also see that the mysterious ancient saber and the black spiritual sword in front of him were extraordinary. Ancient saber, black sword. Don't tell me that is. At this moment, looking at the mysterious ancient saber and the black spiritual sword suspended in the air in front of the huge pit, Indra's face changed slightly. The next moment, a flash of excitement and shock shot out from his eyes. He could not help but exclaim in a low voice, and even his voice became a little trembling. Buddha saber and demon sword. Chapter 479. It was mentioned in the ancestral teachings of the 5 major tribes that the life weapon of Azir, the ruler of the Desert Dynasty, was a common sword and saber. It was known as the Buddha saber and demon sword. Among them, the demon sword was extremely sharp and could cut gold and gravel. On the other hand, the Buddha saber was engraved with complicated and obscure Buddhist scriptures, which were equally powerful. Not only did these two weapons have their own merits, but they were also rare grade, 8 spiritual treasures. In addition, in order to maximize the power of the Buddha saber and demon sword, Azir created a unique martial art that allowed him to hold the saber in his left hand and the sword in his right hand. It was called the Saber and Sword Secret Art. It was equally powerful and was not weaker than any grade 8 martial art in the ancestral teachings of the 5 major tribes. It was with the powerful cultivation of the martial king realm and the power of the Buddha saber, demon sword, and saber and sword secret art that Azir created the Desert Dynasty in the Qatar Desert. Therefore, when Indra saw the mysterious ancient saber and black spiritual sword floating above the skeleton of the 3-legged golden crow not far away, he immediately realized that these were the life weapons left behind by Azir. It's really the Buddha saber and demon sword. His Majesty Azir's inheritance has finally appeared. Could it be that the Buddha saber and demon sword had been hidden in the 3-legged golden crow's stomach all this time? In addition to Indra, Du Qing, Coke, and Zhang Han's expressions changed slightly. Then they were overjoyed. Surprisingly, after the trip to the ancestral mausoleum, everyone had obtained a lot of treasures and opportunities. Before the ruins of the imperial palace were reduced to ruins, A large number of primordial stones, medicinal herbs, and demon cores in the treasury had been plundered by many martial artists. However, compared to the Buddha saber and demon sword in front of them, these opportunities in the treasury were just a piece of cake. They were not worth mentioning at all. After all, the Buddha saber and demon sword were the inheritance left by the martial king realm almighty. Moreover, they were Azir's life weapons, which were grade 8 spiritual treasures. If I can get the Buddha saber and demon sword, even if it's just one of them, my strength will skyrocket by several times. Du Qing looked at the Buddha blade and demon sword hovering in the air with a fiery gaze. His dark eyes flashed with excitement and excitement. At this moment, he quietly clenched the gigantic sword in his right hand. One could vaguely see the undercurrent of Yuan Qi. Other than his identity as the tribe leader of the Shadi tribe, Du Qing was also a sword cultivator. He was good at attacking with indomitable will, using offense as a form of defense. The gigantic sword in his hand was also a spiritual sword ranked 72nd on the spiritual sword ranking. Its power was not weak. However, compared to the 8th realm demonic sword, the power of the Juk's sword paled in comparison. It was weaker by more than one level. Therefore, Du Qing was similarly filled with desire towards the grade 8 soul treasure devil sword and was bound to fight for it. Buddha blade and devil sword. On the other side, Feiren also noticed the appearance of the Buddha blade and demon sword not far away. Immediately, he was shocked. Like everyone else, he had also noticed that these two weapons were not ordinary spiritual treasures. They were at least 8th grade spiritual treasures and were many times more powerful than the Azure Dragon halberd in his hand. Looks like there's going to be another bloody battle. Glancing around, he found that everyone's eyes were filled with passion and greed. For a moment, they were ready to fight. Feiren also took a deep breath, as if he had expected what was going to happen next. After all, in the face of two weapons that were comparable to grade 8 spiritual treasures, none of the warriors present could remain calm and did not have any thoughts. In addition, except for Fei Run, who was a junior, almost everyone present was a veteran martial master expert. The weakest cultivation was at LV 10 martial master realm. Therefore, one could imagine the intensity of the upcoming battle. The Buddha blade and demon sword have been born. The martial arts that His Majesty Azir left behind should also be there. Taking a deep breath, Indra's gaze swept again and looked at the huge pit not far away. Then, his gaze fell on the corpse of the three-legged golden crow that had turned into bones and remains. He suddenly stopped. Although the Buddha blade and demon sword were both grade 8 spiritual treasures with great power, if one did not cultivate the sword and saber techniques, they would not be able to exert their full power. After all, the sword and saber techniques were self-created by Azir in order to maximize the power of the Buddha blade and demon sword. Both were indispensable. In the last words of the ancestors of the 5 tribes, Azir had used the Buddha blade and demon sword to split thousands of mountains, causing the mountains and rivers to stop flowing and the sky to be cloudless. These two weapons were spiritual treasures that were inseparable from the same source. If the Buddha blade and demon sword were separated, their power would be greatly reduced, and they could only be used as ordinary grade 8 spiritual treasures. Thus, they would not be able to exert the power that was rumored to be able to split mountains and rivers. Everyone, although we still don't know the whereabouts of the sword and saber techniques, now that the Buddha blade and demon sword have appeared, it's time to distribute the results. Raising his eyes and glancing at the people around the ruins, Indra grinned and said with a smile, "In order to kill the three-legged golden crow, the Polo tribe suffered a great loss and paid the greatest price. So, logically speaking, the Buddha blade and demon sword should belong to me." "What?" "Indra, what do you mean? What do you mean by it belongs to you?" Before he finished speaking, Hull also took the lead to stand up and oppose. His face was slightly angry and his tone was indignant. After all, in order to fight against the three-legged golden crow, he and the Barkshi tribe behind him also paid a heavy price. Now, except for Hull himself, there were only 2 or 3 masters who survived in the Barkshi tribe. Now that he had a hand over the Buddha blade and the devil's sword to Indra without getting anything from him, Hull obviously could not accept it. Tribe leader Hull is right. I'm afraid that Brother Indra's appetite is a little too big. Not far away, Du Qing also stood up and sneered. In my opinion, everyone who sees the Buddha blade and demon sword should have a share. Like Hull, as the tribe leader of the Kshati tribe, Du Qing and the Kshati tribe behind him also lost a lot of vitality. Moreover, as a sword cultivator, he also coveted the demon sword. Naturally, he wouldn't give up the fight for the Buddha blade and demon sword. Oh, you're not convinced, are you? Seeing Hull, Du Qing, and the others stand up to oppose, Indra seemed to have expected it. The corner of his mouth also showed a sneer. Wait, in my opinion, we're all the people of the 5 major tribes. Let's talk things over. This time, in order to kill the 3-legged golden crow, our Shichuo tribe also paid a heavy price. 3 elders died. Seeing the tense atmosphere filled with the thick smell of gunpowder, Zhang Han stepped forward and cupped his hands as if he wanted to be the peacemaker. Ha ha ha. Talk things over? However, in the face of Zhang Han's attempt to smooth things over, Indra suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed with a playful tone. Zhang Han, 3 elders of your Shichuo tribe have died. Don't worry, there'll be a 4th soon, what? Before he finished speaking, Zhang Han's face froze. Puffed. Zhang Han suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. In the next moment, a look of disbelief and paleness appeared on his old face. He immediately turned his head to look behind him. He saw a sharp black dagger piercing through his heart meridian in an instant. At this moment, blood gushed out from his chest and soaked his robe. The person who attacked was the green-robed old man, Wang Li, the 2nd elder of the Shichuo tribe. Chapter 480. Wang Li. You. Zhang Han's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw the sinister expression on Wang Li's face. He wanted to say something, but he stopped himself. After all, he was the 1st elder of the Shotowa tribe, and Wang Li was the 2nd elder of the Shotowa tribe. They had worked together for many years and had a close relationship. Zhang Han had his own thoughts about the appearance of the Buddhist blade and demon sword. He had planned to work together with Wang Li against the enemy. After all, they were the only 2 experts left in the Shotowa tribe. However, Zhang Han did not expect that Wang Li would stab him in the back and injure him severely. Why? Sensing that his vitality was swiftly slipping away, Zhang Han channeled his ki and flicked away the black dagger in front of his chest as he bellowed in a low voice. Let's go. He knew that cultivators killed for their own benefits. Wang Li must have his own reasons for betraying the Shotowa tribe. Big brother, I'm sorry. I'm not from your Shotowa tribe. I was sent here by the patriarch from start. Becoming the 2nd elder of the Shotowa tribe was part of the plan. This is also the last time I'll call you big brother. Faced with Zhang Han's question, Wang Li's figure flashed and appeared beside Indra with a mocking smile on his face. Zhang Han, today is the day you die. He had severely injured Zhang Han with his previous attack, and it was a fatal injury. He had shattered all of Zhang Han's heart veins. Even if he did not do anything, Zhang Han would still die from excessive blood loss. Traitor, Wang Li, you'll die a horrible death. Zhang Han roared furiously as he looked at the indifferent Wang Li. In the next instant, he circulated the Yuan power in his body to stop the bleeding on his chest. However, his Yuan power aura continued to decline. Soon, it fell to the 10th level of the Martial Master realm. His strength was greatly reduced. Zhang Han's chest was dyed red with blood, and his heart meridians had been completely shattered by the black dagger. It was already a miracle that he was able to maintain half of his strength. Even a rank 8 martial master would be able to deal with him easily. Old man, you're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. After taking another glance at the severely injured Zhang Han, Wang Li sneered and cupped his fists at Indra. He said respectfully, Clan leader Indra, I have completed my mission. I hope that clan leader can kill this old thief personally. From Wang Li's point of view, since his identity had been exposed, he had to silence them. No, I'll leave Zhang Han to you. In the face of Wang Li's request to take credit, Indra waved his hand as if he disdained to do it himself. The next moment, his gaze swept over Du Qing and the others not far away as he said in a faint voice, "The 5 major tribes have been divided for so long. Now it's time to reunite." At this time, facing Wang Li's sudden betrayal of the Shotoa tribe, Du Qing and the other surviving cultivators' faces paled slightly, as if they had yet to recover from their shock. Wang Li, the second elder of the Shuchuo tribe, is Indra's man? I didn't expect this old man to be Indra's pawn in the Shuchuo tribe. Indra really has the ambition to unify the 5 major tribes. It seems that there may be spies in the other tribes. After all, the Paluo tribe was the most powerful tribe among the 5 major tribes. At the same time, Indra was also the only LV-1 martial spirit realm expert. According to the strength on paper, if the other 4 major tribes did not unite, Indra did indeed have the ability to unify the 5 major tribes. Indra, what do you mean? You want to unify the 5 major tribes? Hare's eyes were solemn. The next moment, her stepped forward and asked in a gloomy voice. After all, since Indra could plant a pawn like Wang Li in the Shuchuo tribe, he also had the means to plant spies in the other tribes. Now that Indra's ambition was known to all, he naturally did not need to be polite to Indra. As the clan leader of the Barkshi tribe, her naturally would not give in easily and give up the Barkshi tribe. Indra, do you really think we're decorations? As soon as Hare's voice fell, Du Qing also flew out and pointed his gigantic sword at Indra, who was not far away. His tone was cold, and his eyes were full of vigilance. Although Indra's cultivation was at LV-1 martial spirit realm, he and her were both veteran half-step to martial spirit realm experts. Their strength was not weaker than an ordinary LV-1 martial spirit realm expert. In addition, Indra only had Wang Li as his helper. The Shadi tribe and the Barkshi tribe each had a few surviving martial master experts. If the two sides really fought, it was hard to say who would win. The worst result was nothing more than a loss for both sides. If the 5 major tribes fight later, maybe we can fish in troubled waters. I don't know who will have a last laugh. Not far away, seeing Indra, Du Qing, and the others confronting each other, a few half-step to martial spirit realm rogue cultivators also tacitly retreated. Obviously, they did not intend to intervene in the fight between the 5 major tribes. They just wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. At the same time, on the other side of the ruins, swoosh! After receiving Indra's instruction, Wang Li also jumped and came to the seriously injured Zhang Han. At the same time, he struck out with his palm. Bang! Poochie! The palm heavily imprinted on Zhang Han's chest. The next moment, Zhang Han spat out another mouthful of blood. At the same time, his body shot back toward the ruins and finally fell to the ground. His aura suddenly dropped to an extremely low level. It seemed that he was not far from death. Die! After severely injuring Zhang Han, Wang Li was about to follow up with another attack. The next moment, he was stopped by a gray-robed figure. Then, he was forced to retreat and landed on an empty ground. Kid, although you are a disciple of the Scorching Sun sect, this old man advises you not to meddle in other people's business. This is an internal matter of our Shuchuo tribe. Looking at Fei Run, who was quietly standing opposite him, Wang Li narrowed his eyes, and a trace of vigilance appeared on his old face. The other party was a disciple of the Scorching Sun sect and was very powerful. It could be seen from how he killed the 3-legged golden crow in one move. Without Indra's help, he would not be a match for Fei Ren. Do you want to scram, or do you want me to do it? Ignoring Wang Li's threat, Fei Ren continued to stare at the feeble Zhang Han on the ground as he spoke calmly. Damn it! Hearing this, Wang Li's face turned pale. However, there was nothing he could do. He could only retreat and resentfully return to Indra's side. After all, he was not a match for Fei Ren. It would be easy for him to kill him. Swoosh! Swoosh! Wisps of golden primary energy gushed out of Fei Ren's dantian and slowly flowed into the wound on Zhang Han's chest. However, the next moment, Zhang Han raised his hand and interrupted it. Senior Grand Elder, seeing Zhang Han raise his hand to interrupt his primary energy healing, Fei Run was stunned. Zhang Han seemed to know that he did not have much time left and did not want to waste his efforts. I'm late. I didn't expect Wang Li to be a traitor of your Shichuo tribe. Looking at the severely injured Zhang Han, Fei Ren frowned. If he had acted earlier, he might have been able to save Zhang Han. However, Zhang Han's heart was broken, and there was nothing he could do. No need. My heart is broken. Even if I have primary energy to sustain my life, I won't be able to live for long. Zhang Han smiled tragically and looked at Fei Ren with a pale face. Then, he pointed at Wang Li, who was not far away, with a trembling finger. Fei Ren kid, before this old man dies, I only have one request. Please help me kill this traitor. Clean up the tribe. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Han's head fell to the side, and he stopped breathing. Chapter 481. Senior Great Elder, rest in peace. Seeing Zhang Han dying right before his eyes, Fei Ren shook his head and covered Zhang Han's eyes that had yet to close in peace. Although he wasn't from the Shichuo tribe, Zhang Han and Kublai had treated him well during this period of time, including after entering the ancestral tomb. He had no reason to refuse Zhang Han's dying request. Moreover, a traitor like Wang Li who betrayed his companions in the tribe was indeed despicable and deserved to die. Wang Li, after reducing Zhang Han's corpse to dust, Fei Ren slowly got to his feet and turned his gaze to Wang Li, who was lying in the rubble nearby, with killing intent surging in his eyes. Although he could use the refining Immortal Cauldron to absorb the remaining life essence from Zhang Han's corpse and convert it into pure energy, Fei Ren didn't do so. Instead, he crushed Zhang Han's corpse into dust and scattered it with the wind. This was the last respect he had for Zhang Han. Zhang Han had worked hard for the Shichuo tribe and had won his respect. Patriarch Yin, this kid, not far away, facing Fei Ren's cold gaze filled with killing intent. Wang Li's expression changed slightly. Suddenly, he felt a chill down his spine. He quickly looked at Indra, his voice full of uneasiness. After all, if the other party wanted to kill him, he wouldn't be able to fight back. He could only ask Indra for help. Indra wasn't only the patriarch of the Paluo tribe, he was also an LV-1 martial spirit realm expert. Facing Fei Ren, who was from a Scorching Sun sect, he was the only one who could stop him. Although this kid is a disciple of the Scorching Sun sect, his cultivation is only at LV-7 martial master realm. Are you not his match? Glancing at the uneasy Wang Li, Indra grinned and said with a playful and mocking tone. It seemed that he didn't intend to do it himself. Patriarch Yin, please don't joke around. How can I be his match? Even the weak three-legged golden crow died in this kid's hands. Seeing that Indra didn't intend to intervene, Wang Li's body trembled. He was scared out of his wits and hurriedly said, "This has nothing to do with me. Settle it yourself." However, in the face of Wang Li's tearful complaints, Indra snorted coldly and then flew out, charging towards Du Qing, Coke, and the rest who were not far away. It seemed that he did not intend to intervene in Fei Ren's revenge. Wang Li, looks like your master isn't willing to help you. Not far away, Fei Ren saw Indra rushing towards Du Qing, Coke, and the others alone without any intention of helping Wang Li. Seeing this, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Originally, he thought that Indra would intervene, but on second thought, it was not strange that Indra chose to stand by and watch. After all, Wang Li was just a dog under Indra. Now that the purpose of disintegrating the Shotoa tribe had been achieved and Zhang Han was dead, Wang Li naturally lost his value. Now, Indra's target was the Buddhist blade, the devil sword, and the martial arts sword and saber dual arts that had yet to be revealed. Moreover, Du Qing, Coke, and the others were still eyeing him covetously. Naturally, Indra would not attack Fei Ren first. Not to mention that Fei Ren was a disciple of the Scorching Sun sect. His strength was not to be underestimated. It was unrealistic for Indra to kill Fei Ren in a short time. Bang! Suddenly, just as Fei Run was about to attack, Wang Li stomped his feet on the ground. The next moment, his body instantly turned into a black shadow, flying towards the northeast direction of the ruins. At the same time, his speed was pushed to the limit, obviously intending to escape. Fei Ren, Indra, both of you deserve to die. Where there's life, there's hope. Just you wait. Strands of crazy resentment and killing intent surged in his heart. At this moment, Wang Li's face became a little distorted, with blue veins popping out. He had never thought that he would end up like this after risking his life for Indra. At this moment, there was only one thought left in his mind, and that was to escape. As long as he could escape from Fei Ren's pursuit and save his life, Wang Li did not care about anything else. Trying to run? Seeing that Wang Li was about to escape, Fei Ren's eyes narrowed slightly. Then, his body also soared into the sky. A pair of pale golden origin power wings flapped high, and his speed was as fast as thunder. In an instant, he caught up with the escaping Wang Li, and, at the same time, stopped him. You, go to hell. Seeing that his escape route was blocked, Wang Li's face was filled with madness. The next moment, he raised his hand and channeled his origin power, turning it into a cold black force that rolled towards Fei Ren. Dharma Fist. However, before the attack arrived, Fei Ren's fist had already arrived. Bang! Rumble! Ah! The golden fist force was mixed with the terrifying power of the Dharma golden Buddha body. In an instant, it penetrated Wang Li's chest. In an instant, blood splattered. His heart and dantian were completely shattered by the golden fist force. Wang Li let out a shrill scream, and his body fell to the ground. Rumble! His body smashed into the ground, instantly leaving a human-shaped crater. The next moment, Wang Li's aura plummeted, and he was on the verge of death. From the moment you launched a sneak attack on the Great Elder, you were not far from death. A strong wind whizzed past, and in the next moment, Fei Ren's body also slowly landed on the ground. A pair of black eyes looked at the immobile Wang Li on the ground, filled with coldness and killing intent. Fei Ren, you will die a horrible death. Looking at the cold face of Fei Ren in front of him, Wang Li's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He forced himself to finish the sentence with his last breath, and in the next moment, he was completely dead. Now that his heart and dantian had been shattered by Fei Ren's punch, even if he had elixirs and huata, there was no doubt that Wang Li would die. This is the fate of a traitor. Glancing at Wang Li's body on the ground, Fei Ren summoned the refining Immortal Cauldron, and at the same time, refined and absorbed Wang Li's body. Wang Li's Yuan power cultivation was only at level 10 Martial Master Realm. Although he had absorbed all the remaining life essence of Wang Li's body, it did not improve the current Fei Ren much. The Yuan power in his dantian had only increased a little, but it was negligible. Just as Fei Ren finished off Wang Li, on the other side of the ruins, a fierce battle was about to start. Indra, do you really want to be enemies with the rest of our tribes? Facing Indra, who was flying toward him, Du Qing's face was solemn. He shouted, and at the same time, he quietly clenched the gigantic sword in his hand. At first, he thought that Indra was only threatening them verbally. He never thought that Indra would dare to challenge the rest of their tribes alone, and it seemed that he was determined to win. Chapter 482. Swoosh, swoosh. Facing Du Qing's question, Indra ignored it. His face was cold, and a vast amount of origin energy gushed out from his palms. It turned into two blazing green flames and attacked Du Qing in the next moment. Boom! The green flames pierced through the sky like a comet falling from the sky, bringing up a burst of ear-piercing sound. It was so imposing that it sent chills down people's spines. In the blink of an eye, the attack arrived. Damn it! Facing Indra's violent attack, Du Qing's face turned solemn. He also slashed out with his gigantic sword. A large amount of origin energy swept out, and streaks of black sword radiance were shot out. Boom! A large amount of black sword radiance swept out and met the green flames head-on. The two different forces intertwined and finally exploded, making a deafening roar. With the help of the remaining force of the impact, Du Qing's figure also retreated to an open space at the rear. His face faintly paled, and at the same time, the Yuan power aura on his body also decreased slightly. It seemed that the collision this time had consumed a lot of his Yuan power. Moreover, even the gigantic sword in his hand was slightly dimmed. There were some cracks on the body of the sword, as if it was destroyed by the green flames released by Indra. It was no longer sharp. Although both of them were veteran experts of the 5 major tribes, it was clear that Indra had the upper hand in this collision. After all, Indra was a true LV-1 martial spirit realm expert, while Du Qing's origin energy cultivation was only at the half-step to martial spirit realm. Even if he had a spiritual sword like the gigantic sword and his strength was comparable to a LV-1 martial spirit realm expert, he was still slightly inferior to Indra in terms of origin energy endurance and overall strength. This guy's origin energy is not declining at all. How is this possible? Looking up at Indra, who was not far away, Du Qing was shocked. Previously, everyone present had fought a bloody battle with a weak, 3-legged golden crow, and they had consumed a lot of origin energy. Du Qing was the same. There was not much origin energy left in his dantian, and he could not fight for too long. However, the Indra in front of him seemed to still be in peak condition. The origin energy in his body seemed to be endless, and he could still launch powerful origin energy attacks. This made Du Qing extremely surprised. In his opinion, even if Yin Shuaoyuo's cultivation was at LV-1 martial spirit realm, he would never be able to do that. He attacked together. Thinking of this, Du Qing turned his head to look at Coke and shouted sternly. He knew very well that if it was a one-on-one fight, even with the gigantic sword in hand, he might not be Indra's opponent. Therefore, he could only join forces with Hull. And judging from the current situation, if they couldn't defeat Indra, they wouldn't even get a sip of soup, let alone fight for the Buddha saber, the devil's sword, and the martial arts saber and sword arts that hadn't been born yet. Indra, you're too arrogant. As soon as he finished speaking, Coke also understood. He also flashed to the front of Du Qing. He looked at Indra with cold eyes and said faintly, "Now you're the only one left in the Polo tribe. No matter how strong you are, it is difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. Ha!" His body landed steadily. Seeing that Du Qing and Coke chose to join forces, Indra looked up to the sky and laughed. His tone was disdainful, as if he had expected it. "Old man, you want to stop me with just a few small fries?" Glancing at Coke, Indra's face was filled with disdain. "You." As soon as he finished speaking, Coke's face turned pale and gloomy. Apparently, he was also enraged by Indra's provocation. Attack! They didn't intend to talk nonsense with Indra. The next moment, Coke and Du Qing both mobilized their origin energy and attacked Indra, who was not far away. Both of them had origin energy cultivation of half-step to martial spirit realm. Their combined strength was comparable to a real LV-1 martial spirit realm expert, only slightly weaker than Indra. If it wasn't for the fact that they had spent a lot of origin energy to deal with the 3-legged golden crow, they wouldn't have joined forces. A bunch of small fries. At this moment, facing Du Qing and Coke, who were flying towards him, Yin Shuoyuo also operated his origin energy. The next moment, he released a powerful martial spirit realm aura. At the same time, he flew out and fought with the two of them. Swoosh! Just as Indra, Du Qing, Coke, and the others were fighting, the surviving masters of the 5 major tribes not far away, as well as the rogue cultivators, were ready to make a move. The next moment, they all made their moves and rushed toward the Buddhist sabers and demon swords suspended in the air above the huge pit. Apparently, they planned to seize the treasures while Indra was fighting with Du Qing and the others and keep the Buddhist saber and demon sword. The Buddhist saber and demon sword. It's mine. In the chaos, a rogue cultivator with a pockmarked face fought his way out of the encirclement and came to the Buddhist saber and demon sword with excitement. Boom! However, before he could seize the treasures, a stream of origin energy pierced through the air and attacked him. Ah! The stream of origin energy was like a sharp arrow and instantly penetrated the back of the rogue cultivator with a pockmarked face. Immediately, blood splattered everywhere. The rogue cultivator with a pockmarked face screamed and fell to the ground dead. "Those who dare to stop me die. Get out of my way. Kill." The next moment after the rogue cultivator with a pockmarked face died, a few more warriors joined the fight. For a moment, the sound of killing was endless. Everyone fought together and formed another battlefield. The battle was extremely fierce. In the chaotic battle, there were one or two half-step to martial spirit realm experts who intended to break away from the entanglement of the battle and seize the treasures alone. However, before they could get close to the Buddha saber and demon sword, they would be killed by the joint attack of the rest of the people. Obviously, in the current situation, only the person who survived to the end had a chance to get the Buddha saber and demon sword. At the same time, Fei Run, who was not far from the ruins, was sitting cross-legged. He swallowed elixirs to recover his origin energy and ran his cultivation method to regulate his breath and heal his injuries. He did not join the fight for the Buddha saber and demon sword. Although his previous injuries had almost recovered and did not affect his strength, there were still some internal injuries left in his body due to the continuous fierce battle. For ordinary warriors, these internal injuries were not easy to remove. Moreover, if they were not completely cured, it would have a certain impact on the warrior's foundation and cultivation breakthrough over the years. However, Fei Ren's Dantian had merged with the Immortal refining cauldron. These problems did not exist for him. Any injuries could be removed by the Immortal refining cauldron's devouring power, but it would take a certain amount of time. Phew! In just a few minutes, with the help of the Immortal refining cauldron and the elixirs, Fei Ren's internal injuries were completely removed and his injuries were completely healed. Buddha saber and demon sword. I can't let them go. After finishing his cultivation, Fei Ren's gaze also looked at the Buddha saber and demon sword above the huge pit not far away. A flash of fire flashed in his eyes. Now, the ruins had fallen into a chaotic battle, and no one could get out. Right now, he had a chance to fish in troubled waters and take the Buddha saber and demon sword. Chapter 483. Bang! Fei Ren stomped heavily on the ground. In the next moment, his body flashed, and he flew toward the huge pit not far away like a swallow. Now, other than Indra and Du Qing, the rest of the martial artists were no match for him. Therefore, Fei Ren did not pay attention to the people around him. He went straight for the Buddha saber and demon sword that were floating in the air not far away. Boy, how dare you! In the chaotic battle, seeing that Fei Ren was going to take advantage of the chaos and lay his hands on the Buddha saber and demon sword, an expert from the Kshadi Emperor tribe was furious. He immediately threw out a palm in the air, trying to stop Fei Ren. Boom! The biting cold palm strength was mixed with origin energy. Like a hurricane, it swept across the earth and attacked Fei Ren in an instant. The expert from the Kshadi Emperor tribe was a middle-aged man. His origin energy cultivation had reached the half-step to martial spirit realm. At the same time, he was one of the few experts from the Kshadi Emperor tribe who could survive the impact of the world-destroying, sky-burning flame. At the moment, Du Qing was fighting with Indra and could not free himself to take care of the Buddha saber and demon sword. Therefore, the middle-aged man wanted to seize the opportunity to seize the Buddha saber and demon sword. The Buddha saber and demon sword were both grade 8 spiritual treasures. Even if one of the two weapons could greatly enhance the strength of a martial artist, it could even allow him to fight with someone of a higher level. Therefore, seeing Fei Ren seize the Buddha saber and demon sword, the middle-aged man could not stay calm. Boom! In an instant, a golden light flashed. Just as the Yuan power palm was about to land on Fei Ren's body, a golden Buddha shadow suddenly appeared behind Fei Ren. In an instant, it completely destroyed the incoming Yuan power palm and turned it into wisps of nothingness. With his origin energy cultivation breaking through to LV7 Martial Master Realm, Fei Rin's Dharma Golden Buddha body was getting stronger and stronger. It could withstand the attack of a LV1 Martial Spirit Realm expert, and even contend with an LV2 Martial Spirit Realm expert. On the other hand, the middle-aged man was only at the half step to Martial Spirit Realm. After the battle, he had used up a lot of origin energy. Naturally, he could not hurt Fei Rin. What? At this moment, seeing that his attack was unable to hurt Fei Rin at all, the middle-aged man's expression changed slightly, and he was filled with shock. Although he knew that Fei Rin was not weak and was not an ordinary level 7 martial master, but a genius disciple from a sect in the outside world, the middle-aged man did not expect Fei Rin's strength to be so strong. Not only did he take the full blow of a half-step to Martial Spirit Realm expert head-on, he was also unharmed. Stop! Stop that brat! Kill him! At the same time, the few rogue cultivators and tribal experts who were fighting not far away also noticed Fei Rin's actions. They immediately flew into a rage and changed their target in the next moment. At the same time, they circulated their origin energy and charged towards Fei Rin. Boom! Rumble! In an instant, elemental energy surged and strong winds howled. Fei Rin's action of trying to take advantage of the situation had shockingly aroused the wrath of everyone. For a time, it caused countless origin energy attacks to descend towards him in succession, and they came in all shapes and sizes with imposing auras that shot into the sky like rainbows. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening explosion of origin energy, Fei Rin's figure was immediately submerged in the next moment. It was as if he had been buried in a gorgeous sea of origin energy. There was no trace of him, and no one knew whether he was dead or alive. This brat is simply courting death. Seeing this scene, the middle-aged man's figure also landed on the ground. A vicious sneer appeared on his face. Obviously, he thought that Fei Rin was dead for sure. After all, there were at least a dozen surviving warriors present, and their origin energy cultivation was basically above level 10 Martial Master Realm. Although Fei Rin was a genius from a sect in the outside world, his origin energy cultivation was only at level 7 Martial Master Realm. If he took the joint attack head-on, there was no way he would survive. The aftershock gradually dissipated. In the thick dust, a gray-robed figure appeared again, and at the same time broke the middle-aged man's illusion. This? How could it be? His eyes narrowed as he looked at the familiar gray-robed figure not far away. Not only the middle-aged man, but the rest of the warriors also looked at each other, and their expressions changed drastically. This brat didn't die. Everyone's heart trembled. They saw that the gray-robed figure not far away had a powerful aura. His entire body was enveloped by a layer of red and golden light. There was a red dot in the middle of his eyebrows, and the golden Buddha behind him was still vivid and lifelike, without any injuries. It was Fei Rin. In the next moment, before anyone could react, Fei Rin leaped and immediately arrived in front of the huge pit. Is this the Buddha saber and demon sword? Looking at the mysterious ancient saber and the black spiritual sword floating in the air, even with Fei Rin's temperament, he couldn't help but feel a trace of excitement and excitement. At the same time, his hands were slightly trembling. Tier 8 Spirit Treasure. This was the first time Fei Rin had seen a Tier 8 Spirit Treasure. Even the green dragon halberd that had followed him for many years was only a Tier 5 Spirit Treasure. On the other hand, the Buddha saber and demon sword in front of him were both Tier 8 Spirit Treasures. One could imagine their power and value. Moreover, after combining the two, together with Azir's self-created martial art, the saber and sword dual arts, its power was more than several times. Apart from that, even the Tianxia Chamber of Commerce, which was famous in half of the southeastern region and resounded throughout the entire Great Ming dynasty, might not even have a grade 8 spirit treasure in their hands. Even if they did have one, they would normally guard it as a treasure and would not sell it easily. There's something else? His gaze moved away from the Buddha's saber and demon sword. In the next moment, Fei Ren looked at the skeleton of the three-legged golden crow in the huge pit and was slightly surprised. Just a moment ago, the immortal refining cauldron in his dantian vibrated again. Fei Ren had some understanding of the changes in the immortal refining cauldron over the years. Basically, the things that could cause the immortal refining cauldron to resonate were basically things with abundant spiritual chi, natural treasures, powerful martial arts, and spirit treasures. Hence, other than using the immortal refining cauldron's devouring power to increase his cultivation base, Fei Ren would also use it as a treasure hunting tool. Boom! He raised his hand and blasted out with his palm. As his origin power surged, Fei Ren also shook the skeleton of the three-legged golden crow into dust in the huge pit. The moment the skeleton of the three-legged golden crow was turned into dust, an ancient black secret manual also appeared. It was as if it had finally seen the light of day after many years. There was a trace of dust on it that had yet to disperse, and on the left side of the black secret manual's front page, the four golden words sword and saber dual arts could be faintly seen. This is, looking at the black secret manual lying quietly in the huge pit, Fei Ren's expression froze at first, then became overjoyed, and his eyes were filled with passion. Sword and saber dual arts. Surprisingly, the black secret manual in front of him was the sword and saber dual arts, the martial art left behind by the owner of the ancestral mausoleum, the ruler of the desert dynasty, Azir. Previously, just after everyone killed the three-legged golden crow, the Buddha saber and the demon sword also appeared out of thin air. However, they did not see the shadow of the sword and saber dual arts. Now, Fei Ren finally understood the ins and outs of everything. It turned out that the sword and saber dual arts had been hidden in the skeleton of the three-legged golden crow. If he had not shattered the skeleton of the three-legged golden crow with one palm, perhaps the sword and saber dual arts would have been buried here forever, and no one would know. Once the sword and saber dual arts was lost, even if someone gathered the two rare divine weapons, the Buddha saber and the demon sword, they would not be able to unleash the strongest power of the Buddha saber and the demon sword. They could only be used as ordinary 8th grade spirit treasures, and their power would be greatly reduced. Chapter 484. Swoosh. Origin energy surged in his palm. The next moment, Fei Ren kept the sword and saber techniques in the pit into his pocket. Level 8 martial arts. After a quick glance, Fei Ren was a little excited. The sword and saber techniques in his hand were very powerful. It was an authentic level 8 martial arts. However, the cultivation method in the sword and saber techniques was mostly used with the two rare weapons, the Buddha saber and the demon sword. If it was used alone, the power would be slightly reduced. Even so, the power of the sword and saber techniques was still much stronger than ordinary level 7 martial arts. Even Fei Ren's self-created Dharma Fist was only a level 7 martial art. Compared to the Dharma Fist, if he could cultivate the saber and sword sutra to the perfection realm, even if he did not have the Buddha saber and the devil sword, these two rare weapons in his hands, the power would not be much weaker and would be comparable to a level 8 martial art. Buddha saber and demon sword. After throwing the sword and saber techniques into the spiritual ring, Fei Ren looked at the Buddha saber and the demon sword floating in the air in front of him. Although he was not a sword cultivator and was not good at using sabers, his interest in the Buddha saber and the demon sword was not low. After all, these two rare weapons were level 8 spiritual treasures. They were powerful and valuable. The sword and saber techniques are in the hands of that kid. Damn it, we can't waste any more time here. This kid is so powerful. At the same time, when Fei Ren broke out of the encirclement and took the sword and saber techniques, the surviving warriors near the ruins saw it and exclaimed. After all, Fei Ren was only at the 7th level of the martial master realm, but he was able to break out of the encirclement under the joint attack of a group of warriors. At the same time, he obtained the saber and sword arts in one fell swoop. This was enough to show that Fei Ren's strength was not ordinary. On the other side, after seeing Fei Run get the sword and saber techniques, Indra and Du Qing, who were fighting fiercely, could not stay calm. It's that kid from a Scorching Sun sect. His sword cut through the air and broke Indra's elemental energy attack. The next moment, Du Qing's figure also landed in the empty space behind him. His face was full of surprise. Du Qing, the Buddha blade and devil sword cannot fall into the hands of that Fei Run. On the side, Hull also spoke out. After all, Fei Run had already obtained the saber and sword dual arts, an 8th grade martial art. If they allowed him to obtain the Buddha saber and the demon sword, their 5 tribes would undoubtedly lose everything. They would lose so many people for nothing and would not even be able to drink a mouthful of soup. In addition, although Du Qing and Coke had joined forces to hold Indra back, preventing him from snatching the Buddha saber and demon sword, this was only temporary. With their strength, they were still unable to deal with Indra. After all, he was a true expert of the first level of the martial spirit realm. He was the current patriarch of the Polo tribe. His overall strength was powerful, and he had many hidden cards in his hands. That kid actually got the sword and saber techniques. Damn it, I can't waste any more time here. He shifted his gaze and saw Fei Ren keeping the sword and saber duel tactics in his pocket. Indra squinted his eyes and revealed his murderous intent. In his opinion, the Buddha saber, demon sword, and the sword and saber techniques already belonged to him, and he would not allow others to touch them. Now that Fei Ren intended to snatch the Buddha saber and demon sword, it naturally triggered Indra's killing intent. Swoosh! His figure flashed, and in the next moment, Indra also left the battle. At the same time, he flew towards a huge pit not far away. Indra, where are you going? However, just as Indra moved, Du Qing and Coke followed closely behind and attacked. Obviously, they did not intend to let him succeed easily. In their opinion, although Fei Run had taken advantage of the situation to obtain the sword and saber techniques, Indra was the main enemy at the moment. If Indra obtained the Buddha saber and demon sword, his strength would definitely increase greatly, and the Kshadi tribe and Baruch tribe behind them would probably be annexed by the Polo tribe. Now, Indra's ambition was very obvious. That was to eliminate the dissidents and unify the 5 tribes at the same time. Get lost. Facing the obstruction of the two, Indra's face was cold. Once again, he blasted out dozens of green flames and at the same time, forced Du Qing and Coke to retreat. 2 small fries. I was going to let you go because we are both from the 5 tribes. Since you want to die, don't blame me for being ruthless. After pushing back Du Qing and Coke with a palm strike, Ian Toaluo took out a small, fiery red pill from his spirit ring, his face cold and serious. The fiery red pill's surface was shiny, and there was not a trace of superfluous flaw. Moreover, the pill fragrance was overflowing. The quality was excellent, infinitely close to 99%. It was a rare Tier 7 pill. Dragon Flame Pill. The pill was like its name. This pill was fiery red, as if it was surrounded by flames. It was a rare Tier 7 pill. Moreover, after consuming this pill, it could raise the cultivation of those below the 4th level of the martial spirit realm by 1 level. It could be said to transform into a dragon. Therefore, it was named the Dragon Flame Pill. Indra had obtained this pill from a treasury in the palace ruins. Originally, he did not want to consume it now. He wanted to wait until his cultivation improved so that he could maximize the effect of the Dragon Flame Pill. Now, in order to break through the obstruction of Du Qing and Coke, and to keep the Buddha saber and demon sword, Indra did not plan to hold back. He swallowed the Dragon Flame Pill to increase his cultivation. Gulp boom! As the pill entered his stomach, a ball of fiery warmth filled his body. In the next moment, the origin energy fluctuation on Indra's body rose slowly. Finally, he broke through the shackles of the realm and stepped into the 2nd level of the martial spirit realm. His strength had increased greatly. 2nd level of the martial spirit realm. How could it be? Not far away, Du Qing and Coke's faces changed when they noticed that the origin energy fluctuation on Indra's body had increased again, and he had broken through to the second level of the martial spirit realm in an instant. Originally, it was not easy for the two of them to stall Indra with their strength. Now that Indra's cultivation had broken through and his strength had increased greatly, even if Du Qing and Coke joined forces, they might not be Indra's match. In front of the ruins, smoke billowed. Go to hell. After his cultivation had broken through, Indra flew out again and threw a punch at Du Qing, who was not far away. Compared to Coke, Du Qing, who was holding the gigantic sword, was slightly stronger. Naturally, Du Qing became the first person Indra dealt with. As long as he could defeat Du Qing, the remaining Coke would not be able to do anything. Boom! The fist energy swept out and a large amount of origin energy burst out. The power of Indra's punch had increased by several times, and it was enough to kill any expert below the first level of the martial spirit realm. Not good. Sword formation of origin. Facing Indra, who was flying toward him, Du Qing's heart trembled. He quickly channeled all the origin energy left in his dantian. At the same time, he held the gigantic sword in his hand in front of him. Streaks of black sword radiance burst out like a sword formation to protect his body. He intended to block Indra's biting cold attack. Bang! Rumble! In an instant, the biting cold fist energy smashed onto the sword formation formed by the black sword radiance. The next moment, the sword radiance collapsed and disappeared. Then, the fist energy did not diminish and went straight to the gigantic sword in Du Qing's hand. Crack! Under Indra's all-out punch, the gigantic sword in Du Qing's hand could not withstand the impact of the origin energy. It was broken into two halves on the spot by the residual force of the punch. The originally sharp black sword was also left with a few huge cracks. The spiritual energy within it was greatly depleted. It was obviously completely useless. Chapter 485. My sword. Seeing the Juk's sword broken by the residual power of Indra's fist, Du Qing's face turned pale, and he panicked. After all, the Juk sword in his hand was a famous spiritual sword in the spiritual sword chart, ranked 72nd. Its power was not comparable to ordinary spiritual treasures. It was a rare weapon that could compete with a Tier 6 spiritual treasure. In order to get the Juk sword, Du Qing, the chief of the Kshadi tribe, had spent a lot of effort and a lot of money. However, the Juk sword was destroyed by Indra's fist. Du Qing not only felt his heart bleeding, but his strength would also be greatly reduced. After all, he was a sword cultivator. Most of his skills were in the way of the sword. If the spiritual sword in his hand was destroyed, he would naturally become a weakling. His strength would be similar to an ordinary half-step to martial spirit realm expert, and he would not be able to compete with Indra, who was at LV2 martial spirit realm. Indra, you. Shifting his gaze, Du Qing looked at Indra on the opposite side. His face was ashen. His fists under his sleeves were quietly clenched. His nails pierced deep into his flesh. He was on the verge of rage. After all, his natal weapon was destroyed, and it was the famous Juk sword, ranked 72nd in the spiritual sword chart. Even with Du Qing's temperament, he could not stay calm. He had to kill his opponent to vent his anger. What spiritual sword in the spiritual sword chart? It's just a trash weapon. It's not worth mentioning compared to the Buddhist sword and the demon's sword. Glancing at Du Qing, whose face was as gloomy as stagnant water, Indra smiled coldly. At the same time, a wisp of green flame appeared in his palm again. Du Qing, today I will not only destroy your Juk sword, but also take your life. Like the other party, Indra did not want to let Du Qing go. He planned to kill him. After all, his ambition had been exposed. He planned to unify the 5 tribes. As for Du Qing, the former chief of the Kshadi tribe, he would not show mercy. Returning sword palm. Die! With a roar, Du Qing took the lead in the next moment. He channeled his majestic primary power and slapped the sword palm toward Indra. Right now, his weapon, the gigantic crescent sword, had already been destroyed. Without the support of the spirit treasure, He could only rely on the transformation of his origin energy to fight. After all, after martial warriors stepped into the martial master realm of the three realms of the martial body, they could use their origin energy to transform into a variety of weapons to fight. However, compared to spirit treasures, the might of origin energy taking form was much weaker. Moreover, there were limitations as well, and its duration was related to the total amount of origin energy in the Dantian. Boom! Accompanied by a thunderous roar, a biting cold sword palm made of yuan energy was aimed at Indra's face. In the next moment, countless black snake-like sword thorns burst forth. They were like thistles and thorns, coming at Indra menacingly. This sword palm of Return to Origin was the same as the sword array of Return to Origin. They were both Du Qing's best skills, and their power was no weaker than a rank 6 martial art. Now that he was forced into a desperate situation by Indra, he would not rest until he was dead. He planned to fight with his life on the line. Playing with my life? You're not qualified. In the face of Du Qing's desperate attack, Indra just squinted his eyes. At the same time, his body moved forward, and the green flames around him swept out instantly. His whole body seemed to be covered with a layer of green flame cassock, as if he was possessed by a mighty body. It seemed that he had no intention of dodging. Boom! In an instant, the sword palm of Return to Origin energy and countless black sword thorns hit Indra's body. In an instant, there was a huge explosion. However, in the next moment, they were all annihilated. They were all swallowed by the green flame cassock and could not hurt him at all. What? Seeing that his desperate attack was ineffective against Indra, Du Qing was also in disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. After all, this sword palm of Return to Origin was a rank 6 martial art, and it was mixed with his own sword essence. Even without the support of the gigantic crescent sword, its power was enough to hurt LV1 martial spirit realm expert. However, when his sword palm of Return to Origin faced Indra, it was like scratching an itch. Naturally, Du Qing felt that it was unacceptable. Du Qing, the gap between you and me has been widened a long time ago. Surrounded by flames, Indra looked contemptuously at the ashen-faced Du Qing opposite him and said in a playful tone, "Die!" In an instant, killing intent erupted. In the next moment, a large amount of green flames swept out from Indra's body, and then like a raging fire, attacked Du Qing opposite him. Du Qing's body was instantly swallowed by a large amount of green flames. He just let out a shrill scream, and his whole body turned into a pool of black, scorched earth. Not even a trace of his body was left. He was completely dead. The previous sword palm of Return to Origin had consumed all of Du Qing's origin energy. Now, facing Indra's attack, he naturally could not resist and died instantly. After the breakthrough in origin energy cultivation, this guy's strength has more than doubled. Not far away, seeing Indra kill Du Qing with one punch, Coke, who had little origin energy left, was frightened. He could not help but shiver a few times, and at the same time, he felt a chill on his back. He knew very well that if Indra wanted to kill him, it would only take a second. Old man, you're the only one left at this time. After killing Du Qing, Indra's eyes immediately looked at Coke, who was a little scared, and said in a cold tone, "Indra, for the sake of our past friendship, please spare my life. I was wrong. The Barkshi tribe will call you king in the future, and I'll let you be the patriarch." In the face of Indra's murderous gaze, Hull immediately knelt down and kowtowed repeatedly. His old face was ghastly pale. It seemed that in order to save his life, he didn't care about his face anymore. Ha ha! Looking at Coke's humble appearance, like a beggar dog, Indra looked up to the sky and laughed. His expression was full of arrogance and pride. "I didn't expect you to be so shameless, old man. However, it doesn't mean much to me if I kill you now. Take your men and scram." Indra collected his expression and said coldly. For him, after unifying the 5 tribes, he still needed to stabilize the people. Keeping Coke alive now was not a bad thing. After all, even if Coke wanted to rebel, he did not have the strength and capital. Moreover, if he wanted to kill Coke, it was just a snap of his fingers. "Thank you, Patriarch Indra. I'll take my leave." As soon as he finished speaking, Coke's face turned solemn, and he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Then, he led the few surviving experts of the Barge tribe and hurriedly left the ruins, seemingly afraid that the other party would go back on his word. After subduing Coke, the fence-sitter, Indra's figure flashed and flew toward the huge pit not far away. Now that the Buddha saber and demon sword had appeared, he naturally could not watch the Buddha saber and demon sword being taken away by Fei Run, an outsider warrior. "Boy, stop. The Buddha saber and demon sword are not something you can touch." Just as Fei Run was about to seize the Buddha saber and demon sword, Indra's angry roar came from a distance, like thunder, and his tone was majestic. This guy's primary power cultivation has broken through to LV2 martial spirit realm. Looking back, Fei Rin noticed that the primary power fluctuation on Indra's body had more than doubled, and his eyes narrowed. "Looks like we're going to have a big fight again." Now that Indra had taken care of the two obstacles, Du Qing and Coke, and he wanted to get the Buddha saber and demon sword, he had a fight with Indra. Chapter 486. Die. Without any nonsense, Indra instantly arrived in front of Fei Run. At the same time, he raised his hand and punched towards Fei Ren's chest. After breaking through to LV2 martial spirit realm, Indra's overall strength had more than doubled. Although it was just a simple punch without any martial arts, it was enough to severely injure any LV1 martial spirit realm expert. As for Fei Run, the genius disciple of the Scorching Sun sect from the outside world, Indra's idea was very simple. That was to kill him in the shortest time to avoid unnecessary trouble. Thus, he used his full strength right from the start and did not hold back at all. Dharma Fist. In the face of Indra's attack, Fei Run did not retreat. Instead, he moved forward. The golden Buddha shadow behind him shone brightly. Similarly, he punched out in the air. A large amount of origin energy swept out in an imposing manner. Bang! Rumble! Fist to fist, the two different types of yuan, qi collided head-on. In an instant, the light was extinguished. One could see the chaotic golden yuan qi, while the green flames danced wildly. It was as if two tigers were fighting, and the rumbling sounds were endless. Boom! After a few breaths, another deafening explosion was heard. Then, the remaining power of the yuan power impact dissipated. The next moment, Fei Rin and Yin Shuoyuo both retreated more than a dozen steps before slowly coming to a stop. It seemed that no one had gained the upper hand in the fight. They were evenly matched. Seeing this scene, a few rogue cultivators near the ruins who had yet to leave were stunned. Their faces were full of disbelief. After all, Indra was the chief of the Polo tribe. He was a veteran LV1 martial spirit realm expert. Now that his cultivation had broken through to LV2 martial spirit realm, his strength had more than doubled. However, he still could not defeat Fei Ren. Fei Ren's origin energy cultivation was only at LV7 martial master realm. Not only was there a few small realms between him and Indra, but there was also a big realm between them. In terms of cultivation, Fei Run was at an absolute disadvantage. Furthermore, the gap between the martial master realm and the martial spirit realm was huge. The biggest difference was that after a warrior stepped into the martial spirit realm, his dantian would condense a unique soul. The power of the soul was very magical. Not only could it defend against a portion of mental attacks, a martial spirit realm expert could also burn their own soul to obtain several times their own strength, greatly increasing their strength. In addition, there were differences between souls and souls. Although experts below the martial spirit realm could temporarily increase their strength by burning their souls, they would die after that. On the other hand, burning one's soul would not cause a martial artist to die. It would only cause a slight decrease in strength. From this, one could see the superiority of the soul. This was also the difference between a martial master and a martial spirit expert. This guy's strength isn't weak. As expected of the Paluo tribe's chief, Fei Ren's body flickered with crimson golden light. He twisted his sore right hand and looked at Indra with a solemn expression. Although he forced Indra back with one punch, the power of Indra's fist was equally powerful. Even with the protection of the Dharma Golden Buddha body, it still made his palm numb. Even his entire right hand was sore and painful. Even if he channeled his origin power, he could not dissipate the impact. He's a strong opponent. Thinking of this, Fei Ren's battle intent grew stronger. At the same time, he reached for the Azure Dragon halberd behind him. He was very clear that if he wanted to defeat Indra, he had to use his full strength. Moreover, he could not underestimate his opponent. You have some skills, as expected of the young genius from the Scorching Sun sect, but you still lost. At this moment, Indra glanced at Fei Ren, who was not far away. He took a deep breath and then grinned. The next moment, a black light flashed in his hand. At the same time, a black spiritual sword appeared in his palm. It was one of the weapons in the Buddha blade and demon sword. Looking at the demon sword in Indra's hand, Fei Ren was stunned at first. Then he clenched his fists under his sleeves. Damn it, when did this guy? In the battle just now, Indra seemed to have taken advantage of the situation. He took the initiative to seize one of the weapons in the Buddha blade and demon sword. And Fei Ren was unaware of all this. Just as Indra had said, he had indeed lost in this battle, and thus lost the opportunity to seize the demon sword. However, although Indra had seized the demon sword, the remaining 8th grade spiritual treasure, Buddha blade, was still floating in front of the huge pit. Fei Ren would not let Indra have his way. He would take both 8th grade spiritual treasures. Kill. Holding the green dragon halberd in his right hand, Fei Ren attacked with the halberd. He stabbed at Indra, who was not far away. His origin energy rolled and rolled up waves of piercing green halberd radiance. It was very powerful. In addition, under the control of Fei Ren's mind, the puppet Whitey also appeared out of thin air from the spiritual ring and then attacked Indra together. Kala, puppet Whitey held the bone blade with both of its hands. It was fast and rushed toward Indra. Its hollow eyes were emitting an eerie aura of death. Puppet? But it's useless. Facing the joint attack of Fei Ren and puppet Whitey, Indra exploded with all of his origin energy. He pushed puppet Whitey back with one palm. At the same time, he swung the demon sword in his hand. With the help of the 8th grade spiritual treasure, he knocked away the green dragon halberd. Although Fei Ren was powerful, the gap between their realms was too big. It was impossible for him to defeat Indra, who was at LV2 martial spirit realm, in a short time. Rumble. After being pushed back by Indra, Fei Ren's attack did not slow down. Instead, his body flashed and he rushed toward the sky. What is this kid trying to do? Looking up at the sky, Indra squinted his eyes and looked solemn. He could not understand his opponent's actions. Dharma Golden Buddha body. Full power. A large amount of golden origin energy swept out and shrouded Fei Ren's body. It was as if the real Dharma Golden Buddha had arrived. Such a terrifying aura could not help but change the color of the sky. Black clouds gathered above the ruins as if they were afraid of Fei Ren in the air. Dharma Golden Buddha body was an acquired mighty body. When fully exerted, its power was not weaker than a part of the innate mighty body. In order to defeat Indra, Fei Ren would not hold back. He would fight with all of his strength. Break! With a roar, Fei Ren threw a punch in the air. A large amount of golden origin energy mixed with the biting cold fist force instantly turned into a roaring golden dragon. As it roared, it attacked Indra, who was not far away. It was like a divine dragon descending to the world. The punch had drained more than half of his origin energy. Its power was enough to kill any expert below LV2 martial spirit realm. Rumble. Chi. As the furious dragon roared, an extremely frightening Yuan power aura also spread towards the outside world. Even the surrounding air was emitting waves of ear-piercing, slicing sounds, as if the void was about to be torn apart, causing one's heart to palpitate. Chapter 487. What a powerful punch! Facing the incoming golden dragon, Indra didn't dare to be careless. He also channeled all the yuan power in his body. At the same time, he let out a roar and released wisps of green flames. Heavenly meteorite flame. A large amount of azure flames gushed out from his dantian, like a spirit snake moving out, and then they transformed into a sea of fire that covered the sky and coiled around the golden dragon that was flying towards him. Besides origin energy, these azure flames also contained a strand of the power of fire concept, and its might was even more formidable. As the chief of the Paluo tribe, aside from his own strength not being weak, Indra's mastery of the concept of fire was also not low. He had already reached the perfect realm, and he could release a powerful spirit flame with just a wave of his hand. Now, facing Fei Rin's all-out attack, he naturally wouldn't underestimate his opponent. So, he also used his special skill. Boom! Rumble. In the blink of an eye, the blazing green flames collided head-on with the furious golden dragon, following which a series of loud, rumbling noises rang out, like rolling thunder. Even half of the sky was covered by the green flames and golden yuan power, causing the winds and clouds to change for a moment. Boom! Suddenly, there was another huge yuan power explosion. In the next moment, Fei Rin and Indra's figures were submerged in the shockwave and disappeared. Swoosh! After an unknown amount of time, a figure in a gray robe rushed out from the dust and landed on an open space not far away. His face was pale and his forehead was dripping with sweat. The gap between the martial master realm and the martial spirit realm is still quite big. Even if I use the Dharma Golden Buddha Body and the Dharma Fist, I still can't defeat this guy. He took out an elixir from the spirit ring and consumed it. In the next moment, Fei Rin spat out a mouthful of turbid air. At the same time, he channeled his cultivation technique to recover his yuan power. His robe was tattered in his chest, and limbs were scarred by the yuan power impact. He looked a little embarrassed. Although Indra couldn't do anything to him, it would be difficult for Fei Rin to defeat him. A protracted battle was unavoidable. Therefore, Fei Rin needed to maintain his condition at all times to avoid consuming too much yuan power and reducing his strength. While Fei Rin was making use of the time to recover his yuan power, Indra had also escaped from the aftershock of the impact. His body landed at the back, and similarly, he did not suffer any serious injuries and only suffered some minor injuries. I didn't expect this kid to be so strong. Yin Jiu's gaze swept across Fei Rin, who was not far away. He saw that Fei Rin's expression was solemn. At the same time, his elemental energy aura had also decreased. It seemed that this clash had consumed a lot of elemental energy. The heavenly meteorite flame from before was his strongest killing move. Its power was comparable to a quasi-7th rank martial art. It was also supported by the perfection level of the concept of fire. However, it was still unable to defeat Fei Rin. They were only evenly matched. Damn it, thinking of this, Indra's heart was filled with anger again. As an LV2 martial spirit realm expert, he was unable to do anything to Fei Rin, a mere LV7 martial master realm junior. In his opinion, it was a huge humiliation. At the same time, in front of the ruins swoosh. Just as Fei Rin and Indra were confronting each other, in the next moment, a figure in a blue robe appeared out of thin air. He then pierced through the sky and rushed toward the huge pit like a meteor. He was extremely fast. The aura of the blue-robed figure's yuan power was not weak. It was not inferior to Fei Rin and Indra's. He had also reached the martial spirit realm. What? There's another person? Seeing this, Fei Rin and Indra's expressions changed slightly. After all, the two of them had consumed a lot of their yuan power. Neither of them wanted to benefit from the other. Now that another martial spirit realm expert had appeared, the stalemate was bound to be broken. Ha ha! It is indeed a Tier 8 spiritual treasure. Is this the legendary Buddhist saber? No wonder it's a treasure. Raising his hand to take the Buddhist saber, the blue-robed figure could not help but laugh out loud. There was a trace of excitement on his handsome face. He was the disciple of Celestial Arcanum's sect, Imo Chuandao, who had fought with Fei Ren before. It's him. Seeing Imo Chuandao's sudden appearance, Fei Ren's expression froze. Then he squinted his eyes. Imo Chuandao was a disciple of the Celestial Arcanum sect, a third-grade sect in the northern continent. He had fought with him in the ancestral mausoleum before. Imo Chuandao's strength was extraordinary. Moreover, he had the innate overlord body, infinite ice emperor body. He was also a young genius. Level 1 martial spirit realm? Looks like this guy has obtained quite a lot of opportunities in the ancestral mausoleum. Sensing that Imo Chuandao's Yuan power aura had become stronger, Fei Ren's expression suddenly turned serious. At the same time, he tightened his grip on the green dragon halberd to speed up the recovery of Yuan power in his dantian. Right now, Imo Chuandao's Yuan power cultivation had successfully stepped into the martial spirit realm, reaching level 1 martial spirit realm. Back then, Imo Chuandao's Yuan power cultivation was only at the half step to martial spirit realm. Relying on the power of the innate overlord body, his overall strength was comparable to a level 1 martial spirit realm expert. Now that his cultivation had improved greatly, Imo Chuandao's strength had increased by several folds. Fei Ren did not know much about Imo Chuandao, a disciple of the Celestial Arcanum sect. He only knew that there were very few disciples in the Celestial Arcanum sect. Their strength was not weak, and they loved to collect all kinds of treasures. Therefore, Fei Ren was very wary of Imo Chuandao, who had appeared again. His expression was solemn. Back then, he had fought with Imo Chuandao once. If he had not used the power of the Dharma Golden Buddha body to force Imo Chuandao to retreat, his treasures would have been snatched away by Imo Chuandao. He might even have lost his life. That was enough to show how powerful Imo Chuandao was. It's you, that brat from the Clear Sea sect. Right now, after successfully snatching the Buddha saber, Imo Chuandao was also flying in the air. His gaze was also fixed on Fei Ren, who was not far away. Then he suddenly stopped, and his eyes widened. Back then, he was unstoppable in the ancestral mausoleum. Almost no one was his match. At the same time, he had also snatched many treasures and money. However, in the end, he ran into a wall with Fei Ren and had to leave in a sorry state. Therefore, Imo Chuandao naturally had a deep impression of Fei Ren, his archenemy. I'm not a disciple of the Clear Sea sect. You must be mistaken. In the face of Imo Chuandao's overbearing and ferocious gaze, Fei Ren merely shrugged his shoulders and said in an indifferent tone. Previously, he and Indra had fought a bloody battle, and both of them had exhausted a lot of their Yuan power. That was why Imo Chuandao had taken advantage of the situation and snatched the Buddha saber. Moreover, during their fight, Imo Chuandao seemed to have mistaken him for someone from the Clear Sea sect and remembered him. Cut the crap. Today I'll defeat you with my own hands. However, in the face of Fei Ren's explanation, Imo Chuandao only smiled coldly. He seemed to think that Fei Ren was deliberately showing weakness. I've got it. Suddenly, a vicious plan came to his mind. In the next moment, Imo Chuandao looked at Indra, who was not far away, and said with a voice transmission, "Sir, since you have a grudge against this brat, why don't we join forces to deal with him?" Previously, he had seen the fierce battle between Indra and Fei Ren. Hence, he knew that Indra's enemy was also Fei Ren. Chapter 488. Your suggestion is good, but this kid isn't that easy to deal with. However, in the face of Imo Chuandao's invitation, Indra, who was not far away, grinned and said with a meaningful tone, "After all, Imo Chuandao had snatched the Buddha blade during the chaos. Strictly speaking, he was also one of his enemies. Therefore, Indra did not immediately agree to Mo Chuandao's suggestion. Other than that, the Buddha Blade and the Demon Sword could only unleash their full power when they were together with the martial arts of the sword and saber techniques. Indra would not be satisfied if he only got the Tier 8 spiritual treasure, the Demon Sword. The remaining Tier 8 spiritual treasure, the Buddha Blade, and the sword and saber techniques in Fei Ren's hands were also things that he coveted. If you take care of this kid, I can give you all his treasures, including the Buddha Blade. Mo Chuandao seemed to have understood the meaning behind Indra's words and said coldly in the next moment, "Are you serious?" Hearing this, Indra probed again, his tone revealing a trace of bewilderment. After all, the Buddha Blade in his hand was the life weapon left behind by his ear. It was also a Tier 8 spiritual treasure with great strength. Therefore, Indra was in disbelief when he saw Mo Chuandao giving up the Buddha Blade in his hand in order to deal with Fei Ren. He suspected that there was a trap. Of course, I'm a disciple of the Celestial Arcanum sect in the Northern Continent. I've collected at least 1,000 treasures. A mere Tier 8 spiritual treasure is nothing to me. If you don't believe me, then just pretend that I didn't say anything. Mo Chuandao glanced at Indra and saw that he was wavering. Mo Chuandao said calmly with a glint in his eyes. In fact, he did not really want to give up the Buddha Blade. He was just saying it. He could go back on his words at any time. As long as he took care of Fei Ren, this strong opponent, Mo Chuandao would turn his attention to Indra. Currently, he was just giving up on purpose to get Indra's help. This guy's words can't be trusted. However, compared to the kid from the Scorching Sun sect, this guy is not much of a threat to me. I'll deal with the kid from the Scorching Sun sect first, then kill this guy and take the Buddhist Blade and the sword and saber arts. Looking at Mo Chuandao again, Indra's eyes flickered. In the next moment, he clenched his fists under his sleeves. As the chief of the Polo tribe and a veteran martial spirit realm expert, he was naturally a shrewd person. He wouldn't be moved by Mo Chuandao's few words. At the same time, he had also guessed what Mo Chuandao was thinking. However, in Indra's opinion, compared to Mo Chuandao, who suddenly appeared, Fei Ren was obviously a bigger threat. I can help you deal with this kid. However, after this is done, the Buddhist Blade and all the treasures on this kid will belong to me. After making up his mind, Indra looked at Mo Chuandao beside him and spoke in a faint voice. "Ha ha ha, of course." Mo Chuandao laughed out loud when he saw that Indra had finally nodded. His eyes were filled with killing intent. As long as Indra was willing to help, he had 90% confidence that he could kill Fei Ren and avenge his humiliation. As for the conditions that he had agreed to, Mo Chuandao didn't care about them at all. Everything was just an excuse. "Chief Indra, you're not a 3-year-old kid anymore. Do you really believe in this guy's bullsh** tea?" At this moment, seeing that Mo Chuandao was trying to rope Indra in to deal with him together, Fei Ren narrowed his eyes and spoke coldly. If it was just one of the two, he wouldn't care about it. However, it was a little tricky to deal with two martial spirit realm experts at the same time. After all, Mo Chuandao and Indra weren't weak. The former's cultivation was at level 1 martial spirit realm, while the latter was at level 2 martial spirit realm. Mo Chuandao even had the innate tyrant body, the infinite ice emperor body. He was also a young genius. "Hand over the sword and saber arts in your hands, and I can consider sparing your life." Facing Fei Ren's words, Indra's expression didn't change. His tone was cold, and he obviously didn't care about Mo Chuandao trying to drive a wedge between them. Then, there's no room for negotiation. Seeing this, Fei Ren sneered. Then, the golden Buddha shadow appeared, and a large amount of golden primary power swept out. "Die!" The demonic sword in his hand swept out, and in the next moment, Indra also charged towards Fei Ren. Ice Crystal Palm. Just as Indra launched his attack, Mo Chuandao also joined in the attack. The power of the infinite Ice Emperor body was fully unleashed. At the same time, dozens of beautiful ice crystals blasted out from his palm and instantly attacked Fei Ren in the sky. His attack was biting cold. Clang! Rumble! Fei Ren swung the green dragon halberd in his right hand diagonally. A large amount of golden primary power swept out and forced Indra's attack back. Go! A white light flashed from the spirit ring on his finger. The next moment, a fiery red spiritual talisman appeared in Fei Ren's palm. It was the Raging Fire spiritual talisman that he had obtained from Elder Wang Jia of the Bone Sect. Boom! Wisps of blazing spiritual fire swept out along with the surge of Yuan power. It instantly melted and annihilated the dozens of beautiful ice crystals that were attacking from all directions. At the same time, it continued to attack Mo Chuandao, who was not far away. The Raging Fire spiritual talisman was a middle-grade spiritual talisman. Its power was comparable to the full-powered attack of a LV-10 Martial Master Expert. Brat, do you think you can stop me with just a middle-grade spiritual talisman? Mo Chuandao raised his hand and crushed the rolling spiritual fire with his palm. In the next moment, his attack did not slow down. Once again, he attacked Fei Ren with his palm. His killing intent was bursting. Seeing that his Raging Fire spiritual talisman was destroyed by his opponent, Fei Ren's expression was calm. Once again, he summoned Puppet Little White from his spirit ring. Kala. As soon as the Puppet Whitey appeared, it entangled Indra, who was at the side, and stopped him in his tracks. Originally, he did not expect the Raging Fire spiritual talisman to be able to stop Mo Chuandao's attack. He only needed to buy some time. As for Puppet Little White, it was the same. Facing the joint attack of Indra and Mo Chuandao, Fei Ren only had one trump card to turn the situation around. That was the Refining Divine Cauldron. Now that the mysterious inscriptions on the Refining Divine Cauldron had recovered by a quarter, its devouring power had increased tremendously. It could devour anything and turn it into pure energy of the universe, including living beings and human warriors. Fei Ren's goal was simple. He wanted to use the power of the Refining Divine Cauldron to devour Mo Chuandao. Bang! The palm energy broke through the air and instantly broke through the defense of the Dharma Golden Buddha body. Then, it slammed into Fei Ren's chest. After being severely injured, Fei Ren spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale. Brat, you're finished. After severely injuring Fei Ren with one palm strike, Mo Chuandao was delighted. He laughed wildly as if he could already see Fei Ren's tragic death. Oh, is that so? However, in the next moment, Fei Ren's eerie voice rang in his ears. It was as if a ghost was demanding his life. Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely powerful devouring power swept out from Fei Ren's body. It instantly covered a radius of a few hundred feet. Even the void let out a series of ear-piercing, tearing sounds. Dust, grass, and trees flew everywhere. It was as if an endless black hole was going to devour everything. What? Faced with the sudden change, Mo Chuandao was horrified and terrified. He could clearly feel that the devouring power around him was extremely powerful. It was enough to threaten his life. It could even devour him alive. Chapter 489. I've been tricked. Before Mo Chuandao could react, a small ancient cauldron appeared in the air and was emitting a boundless devouring power. It was the divine Immortal Refining Cauldron in Fei Ren's Dantian. At the same time, Mo Chuandao's left hand was stuck on the body of the divine Immortal Refining Cauldron. He could not break free from the powerful devouring power. What kind of treasure is this? Mo Chuandao looked around and saw the divine Immortal Refining Cauldron. His handsome face was filled with shock and fear. At this point, he finally understood why Fei Ren would take his punch head-on. Everything was done on purpose. Moreover, the devouring power released by the divine Immortal Refining Cauldron was extremely powerful. It was like a bottomless black hole that devoured all the dust and plants in the surroundings. If he could not break free in time, not to mention his left hand, even his entire body would be devoured and die. The devouring power of the divine, immortal refining cauldron has become much stronger. It seems that other than the strange inscriptions on the body of the cauldron, it is also related to my strength. Fei Ren controlled the divine, immortal refining cauldron with his left hand and increased the devouring power of the divine, immortal refining cauldron. At the same time, the size of the divine, immortal refining cauldron increased by several times. It was like an ancient bell that covered Mo Chuandao's entire body. Mo Chuandao was a disciple of the Celestial Arcanum sect, and his Yuan power cultivation had reached level 1 martial spirit realm. If he could devour Mo Chuandao, it would greatly increase his Yuan power cultivation. Damn it! Mo Chuandao gritted his teeth when he sensed that the devouring power from the divine, immortal refining cauldron had increased. He instantly unleashed his infinite ice emperor body. His entire body was covered with a layer of beautiful ice crystals. His eyes turned blue and his aura increased by several times. Buzz buzz. However, the power of the innate tyrant body was still ineffective against the devouring power of the divine, immortal refining cauldron. Not only did the devouring power of the divine, immortal refining cauldron not decrease, it became even stronger. It was as though the power of the innate tyrant body was being devoured as well. Mo Chuandao roared. His handsome face turned red, and his veins popped out in the face of death. Chila! Accompanied by the sound of cloth being torn apart, Mo Chuandao actually severed his left arm in the next moment. At the same time, he used his right hand to push the divine, immortal refining cauldron back. He took advantage of the momentum to retreat. Large amounts of blood splattered across the sky, and he immediately cut a sorry figure. In order to save his own life, he had no other choice but to cut off one of his arms. Right now, he couldn't resist the devouring power of the divine cauldron at all. Even if he used the infinite ice emperor body, it was useless. On the other side of the sky, Fei Ren was slightly surprised to see Mo Chuandao severing one of his arms to forcefully break free from the divine, immortal refining cauldron's devouring power. After all, for a martial artist, the repercussions of losing an arm were huge. It could even affect their martial arts foundation in the future, and their strength would be greatly reduced. Even if one wanted to regrow a severed limb, one would need to consume at least 8th grade elixirs. However, 8th grade elixirs were not only expensive, they were also priceless. Ordinary martial spirit realm experts would not be able to obtain them. This guy's quite ruthless. What a pity. Looks like my origin power cultivation base is still too low. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to break free from the divine, immortal refining cauldron's devouring power, even if he were to sever one of his arms. With a thought, the divine, immortal refining cauldron gradually recovered. Then, Fei Ren kept it back in his dantian. This was his first time using the divine, immortal refining cauldron's devouring power in a battle. Although he did not manage to kill Mo Chuandao in one fell swoop, he was able to cripple his left arm. That was still acceptable to Fei Ren. With the disappearance of the divine, immortal refining cauldron, the devouring power that was wreaking havoc in the surroundings slowly dissipated as well, leaving behind a mess. Mo Chuandao, you're no match for me. Fei Ren looked at Mo Chuandao, whose aura was dropping rapidly in the sky. His tone was cold. Now that Mo Chuandao had lost his left arm, his strength was greatly reduced, and he was no match for Lu Sheng. There was no need for him to use the divine, immortal refining cauldron. Moreover, using the divine, immortal refining cauldron's devouring power in a battle was a huge drain on his origin power. It was far more than using the Dharma Golden Buddha body. Hence, Fei Ren would not use the divine, immortal refining cauldron to kill his enemy unless he had no other choice. Apart from that, if the secret of the divine, immortal refining cauldron was exposed, it would bring him a fatal disaster. This was also the reason why Fei Ren was being cautious. What should I do? Faced with Fei Ren's cold gaze, Mo Chuandao, whose strength had been greatly reduced, was feeling uneasy. He was hesitant. He was unwilling to turn around and run. However, if he continued fighting, he would not be able to fight against Fei Rin's divine immortal refining cauldron. For a time, Mo Chuandao was hesitant. At the same time, on the other side, Indra had successfully repelled the puppet Little White's obstruction. He flew over and attacked. However, he had witnessed how Fei Rin used the divine immortal refining cauldron to cripple Mo Chuandao's left arm. Although he had managed to come to his aid, Indra dared not act rashly. His expression was uncertain. What kind of spiritual treasure is that ancient cauldron? Its power is far inferior to the devil's sword in my hand. How is this possible? Could it be that this kid has been hiding his strength all this while? Indra thought to himself. He held the devil's sword tightly in his hand. However, he did not dare to make a move. He merely stared at Fei Rin in the sky cautiously. So, these two are afraid of death as well. As they faced each other in the sky, Fei Rin saw that Mo Chuandao and Indra did not make a move. He could guess what was going on, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Boom! Rumble! At this moment, a series of loud rumbles came from the sky. Then the earth shook and the mountains shook. The entire ancestral mausoleum small world was shaking. The ground was torn apart, and the mountains and rivers were cut off. It was as if it would collapse at any time. It was like the end of the world. The ancestral mausoleum is collapsing. Noticing the changes in the sky and his surroundings, Fei Rin's eyes narrowed. Currently, the inheritance and opportunities left behind by Azir had all returned to their respective owners. The Buddha saber had fallen into Mo Chuandao's hands, the devil's sword had been snatched away by Indra, and the rank 8 martial art, sword and saber secret art, had fallen into his hands. Perhaps it was because Azir's inheritance and opportunity had been snatched away that the ancestral mausoleum was collapsing. At the same time, Mo Chuandao and Indra in the sky also noticed the changes in the ancestral mausoleum. Their expressions were different. Kid, the archaic Arcanum sect will not let you go. I'll make sure to pay for this. Gritting his teeth, Mo Chuandao glared at Fei Rin in the next moment. Then, he used his origin power to stop the bleeding on his left arm. At the same time, he turned around and fled the ruins toward the exit of the ancestral mausoleum. Currently, the ancestral mausoleum was on the verge of collapsing. The two of them could not do anything to Fei Rin even if they continued to fight. If they left too late, they might suffer instead. They might even be buried underground together with the ancestral mausoleum's collapse. Hence, without any hesitation, Mo Chuandao chose to flee. TSK. When Indra saw Mo Chuandao fleeing with his injuries, he glanced at Fei Rin in the sky. The next moment, he fled as well. Naturally, his thoughts were the same as Mo Chuandao's. He did not want to be buried together with the ancestral mausoleum small world. Chapter 490. They finally escaped. I almost gave myself away. Seeing Mo Chuandao and Indra escape, Fei Rin heaved a sigh of relief. In the next moment, the golden Buddha shadow behind him slowly disappeared. The golden light dimmed as if it could no longer maintain the state of the Dharma golden Buddha body. At the same time, the aura around him dropped drastically. Up until now, Fei Rin had already reached his limit. As for his calm demeanor, it was naturally an act. First, he fought with the three-legged golden crow. Then he fought with Indra and Mo Chuandao. After a bloody battle, even an LV-1 martial spirit realm expert would not be able to withstand it. Moreover, Fei Rin's primary power cultivation was only at LV-7 martial master realm. If it were not for the fact that his Dantian's capacity was several times larger than an ordinary martial artist's, he would not have so much primary power to support the battle and use the power of the smelting immortal cauldron. Fei Rin was actually gambling. If Mo Chuandao and Indra continued to fight, he would be in danger as he was already close to his limit. However, he was lucky to have won the bet. Mo Chuandao and Indra did not dare to continue fighting with him. Instead, they chose to leave. Boom! At this time, the ancestral mausoleum small world was collapsing at a faster speed. The originally calm sky was torn open and the earth was shaking. The various demonic beasts that lived in the ancestral mausoleum small world were also in turmoil. They seemed to have predicted the collapse of the ancestral mausoleum and began to flee. It was chaos. This place is going to collapse. Looks like I have to leave quickly. Faerun collected his thoughts and flew toward the exit of the ancestral mausoleum. At the same time, he activated his body movement skill to the maximum and turned into a stream of light. After all, the ancestral mausoleum he was in was an underground small world that Azir had created. Although this underground small world looked no different from the outside world, it was still a mausoleum. Since it was a mausoleum, it would collapse one day. During this trip to the ancestral tomb, although he was unable to obtain the complete Buddha saber and demon sword, and only obtained a level 8 martial art, saber, and sword dual arts, Faerun's harvest was still not small. Now, the intermediate spiritual ring in his hand was filled with all kinds of heavenly treasures, including a large number of primordial stones, elixirs, medicinal herbs, and demon cores. Moreover, his primordial chi cultivation had broken through to LV 7 martial master realm. Compared to when he left the Scorching Sun sect, his strength had increased by several times. At the same time, in the Katar Desert of the Great Ming Dynasty, a purple figure stood in the air, floating tens of thousands of feet high in the sky. The ancestral mausoleum is about to collapse. It seems like the treasure of the martial king has already been taken. Tang Shui frowned slightly. In the next moment, her beautiful eyes swept across the vast expanse of yellow sand below. Finally, her gaze landed on a black tombstone. This was the entrance to the ancestral mausoleum. I don't know if it's that kid. If he can't even deal with a few first-level martial spirit realm lackeys, then he's not qualified to be my opponent. A stubborn and delicate face appeared in her mind. Tang Shui's eyes were deep, and her beautiful face under the veil was as calm as before. It was hard to fathom. Originally, she had planned to fight for the treasure of the Martial King realm. Otherwise, she would not have chased away Guan Sheng from the Dragon Sect. Guan Sheng was the former 4th captain of the Dragon Sect Guards, and his strength was not weak. However, after meeting Faerun, Tang Shui changed her mind. Tang Shui knew very well that compared to those geniuses from noble sects and disciples from big families, Faerun's starting line was not just a little bit higher. As far as she knew, some disciples from big families and sects began to cultivate primordial chi at the age of 6, stepped into the high star realm at the age of 10, broke through to the martial master realm at the age of 13, and became a martial spirit realm expert at the age of 18. Faerun was able to grow from a small town in a low-ranked dynasty, a mere body refinement realm ant, to his current level. It was not as simple as the heavens rewarding the diligent. There were still many secrets about him that she did not know. Therefore, Tang Shui wanted to see how far Faerun could go and whether he was qualified to be her opponent. Master, your disciple will definitely seek justice for you for the injustice you suffered back then. I won't let any of those opportunists from the Pure Sea sect off. Tang Shui's red lips parted slightly as she exhaled a fragrant breath. In the next moment, her pretty face gradually turned solemn. At the same time, her beautiful eyes flashed as if she was recalling something from the past. The Pure Sea sect was the top sect in the southeastern region. It was a third-ranked sect and had a strong foundation. She was originally a disciple of the Clear Sea sect. Back in the day, she was a proud daughter of the heavens. However, several decades ago, she left the Clear Sea sect alone for some reason. In the end, she was listed as a wanted criminal by her former sect. Everyone despised her for being a traitor. Although she had left the Pure Sea sect, Tang Shui had never slacked off on her primordial chi cultivation. She had even made a name for herself in the southeastern region. She was known as the Night Demon Fairy in the pugilistic world and was feared by some sects and families. However, Tang Shui herself did not care about these false reputations. She was worried about something more important, which was also the reason why she had been cultivating so hard all these years. Rip! She raised her jade-like hand, and a mysterious spatial power appeared spontaneously. In the next moment, the void in front of Tang Shui was torn apart, revealing a void passage that was dozens of feet wide. The power of the concept of space. Tang Shui's control of the concept of space had already reached the realm of great mastery. Although she had not reached the realm of perfection, she could still tear apart the void and achieve the effect of teleportation. However, the void passage she created could only last for a few minutes. Swoosh! A beautiful figure flashed, and in the next moment, Tang Shui's figure disappeared into the void passage. Then, she disappeared as if she had never appeared. Somewhere in the Qatar desert, accompanied by a wave of spatial fluctuations, a gray-robed figure also descended from the sky. Then, he fell heavily on the sand and ate a mouthful of sand. Ba ba ba. I'm finally out. Fei Ren hurriedly struggled to get up from the sand. In the next moment, he spat out a few mouthfuls of sand. His handsome face was faintly disheveled. Just now, he had finally made it to the entrance of the ancestral mausoleum. Then, he used the power of the spatial formation at the entrance to leave the ancestral mausoleum. After the ancestral mausoleum collapsed, the spatial formation at the entrance dissipated on its own. The entire underground world was completely buried, and there was no way to enter it anymore. The main character is really lucky. Fei Ren exhaled again and sighed with emotion. When he thought about how he would be trapped in the ancestral mausoleum forever after the spatial formation dissipated and buried deep underground, he could not help but feel a trace of fear in his heart. Kid, did you come out of the ancestral mausoleum? At this moment, a man's voice came from afar. It was like thunder, and the tone was mocking. Who are you? As the voice fell, Fei Ren's face turned serious, and then he turned his head to look in the direction of the voice. In front of a hill not far away, a long-haired man in a black robe was standing quietly. The long-haired man in the black robe was tall and slender. At this moment, he was holding a small wine gourd. His beard was messy and stained with wine. It was the tombkeeper of the ancestral mausoleum, Huang Tian. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.